While everyone else was going out to simp over the school beauties, our protagonist didn't make that mistake. Instead, he focused on business and making money. It turns out he is no longer the person he once was. After regressing to the past, he now possesses both his youthful appearance and the business skills he gained in the future. With this advantage, he is able to secure deal after deal. Our protagonist quickly becomes incredibly rich and outstanding. The transformation is so drastic that the girls around him, including his ex, who once treated him like an ordinary nobody, are now competing and doing everything they can just to get his attention. The story begins the moment he returns to the past. Apparently, he finds himself inside a subway train announcing the passenger's destination, Jinling Station. Our protagonist stares at his palm in confusion because he was supposed to be dead. Just then, a girl interrupts his thoughts by calling him handsome. She kindly requests that he help with her luggage since the top shelf is a bit too high. Our protagonist is stunned when he recognizes the girl with the massive twin peaks as Zheng Yan. He wonders how she could look so young. Even more puzzling, she is wearing the exact same outfit she wore during her freshman year, back when they first met. His thoughts are interrupted when he notices his reflection. To his surprise, he realizes that he has a much younger appearance, specifically from the time when he was 19 years old. This makes him conclude that he has been reborn. Memories from his previous life begin to surface. He remembers going on a date after finally divorcing his toxic wife. But just when things seemed to be going fine, she suddenly showed up drunk while loudly calling out our protagonist's name, Zhou Yuan. Grabbing him, she expresses her frustration about him chasing younger girls. Our protagonist slaps her hand away and tells his ex-wife, Su Qing, that she is drunk. In addition, his date mocks her, calling her an old cow with expired milk. This immediately makes Su Qing furious. She angrily demands to know who the girl was calling an old lady. Things quickly escalate after that. Then, by accident, Su Qing trips on her heels and is simultaneously about to get run over by Truck-kun. Our protagonist instinctively tries to save her while thinking to himself that if they both survive, she will owe him big time. Back to the present. Zheng Yan pouts angrily, thinking she is being ignored. Our protagonist quickly responds with an apology, saying he got distracted. Just then, the passengers are informed about their arrival and advised to hold tight. Because of this, Yan loses her footing when the train suddenly stops. Our protagonist tries to help her, but they both fall to the ground, leaving her extremely embarrassed. Meanwhile, our protagonist seizes the opportunity to very obviously observe her chest. Because of this, she screams at him in embarrassment. Our protagonist quickly diffuses the awkward tension by helping her with her luggage and handing it to her. Yan takes it and heads out, but not before swearing to kill him if he ever mentions this incident to anyone. Our protagonist thinks to himself that she is exactly the same as in his past life. The next scene cuts to his school. As he observes the campus, our protagonist reflects that in his past life, his heart was once filled with ambition and dreams of accomplishing great things. But sadly, life hit him hard. However, with the knowledge from his previous life, things will definitely be different this time around. Just then, he is pulled out of his thoughts when a girl approaches him and asks if he came to register. Zhou Yuan immediately recognizes her. The beautiful girl is his senior, Chen Wan. On the other side, Su Qing also wakes up as if she just had a long nightmare. She looks around and wonders why she is in her old room. Because of this, she runs to the mirror. When she sees her reflection, she is left in utter shock and wonders what is happening. Only then does she realize that, just like our protagonist, she too has been sent back to the past after the accident. Meanwhile, Chen Wen suddenly pulls out a flyer while introducing herself as his senior and asks if our protagonist needs help with his luggage. In the middle of their conversation, our protagonist keeps staring at her assets. Our protagonist has a thing for boobs. He thinks to himself that the girl is stacked. No wonder she managed to scam him into buying multiple SIM cards in his past life. Interrupting her, our protagonist takes the flyer and adds that her sales pitch is outdated. Getting caught off guard, she demands to know what he means. Our protagonist doesn't explain. Instead, he tells her that he is a local, and if she gives him the flyers, he will help her promote them in exchange for a commission. Chen Wen naturally asks if he is serious. Our protagonist confirms. Because of this, she begins thinking about how profitable this could be, so she agrees and even hands him extra flyers to promote. In addition, she tells him she will come back later to check on his results before saying goodbye. Because of this, our protagonist thinks to himself that in his past life, when he patronized her, She excitedly escorted him to his dorm. Seeing her attitude flip so drastically now makes him feel a bit awkward. Arriving at his dorm, he hears a familiar voice coming from inside. Once he opens the door, he sees his future friend trash-talking while FaceTiming one of his gaming buddies. The red-haired guy immediately ends the conversation and walks toward our protagonist. While helping with his luggage, the red-haired guy introduces himself as Chang Hao from Beijing. Our protagonist responds with his own introduction, saying he comes from Suhuai. Speaking of Suhuai, the red-haired guy calls it a coincidence. It turns out the girl he wants to pursue happens to be Yan Yan, and she also comes from the same place as our protagonist. In addition, he has already arranged a meeting with several beautiful girls and asks the guys if anyone wants to come along. Hearing this, the others immediately come up with excuses not to go. Except for one guy who tells brother Chang Hao to ignore the others. Since Chang Hao wants a wingman, he says he's willing to help. With that, both of them leave. Before leaving, Chang Hao doesn't forget to warn the guys not to get jealous when he and Li Qiang are rolling around with the girls. Our protagonist scoffs at the idea of chasing girls and playing games. This was one of the mistakes he made in his past life. But this time, he has reached enlightenment. His main priority now is making money. In the next scene, when he appears in front of the freshman girls, they only take one look at him and assume he is a handsome senior because of his calm composure. Our protagonist smiles politely and offers to help them with their luggage. Using his charm and sales skills, he starts a conversation and suggests the girls try the local campus SIM card if their data plan isn't enough. When the girls learn how much data they can get and the benefits of the SIM card, one of them immediately informs her friend and asks for our protagonist's contact. But the girl beside her points out that there is already a number on the flyer, which likely belongs to him. In response, the girl calls her friend foolish, explaining that the best way to stay in touch and possibly build a future relationship is to ask for his contact directly. Our protagonist sees no problem with this and decides to add both girls to his contacts. In the middle of their conversation, they are suddenly approached by a girl and her mother. The girl asks our protagonist if he happens to be heading toward building A9. Our protagonist is surprised to run into yet another familiar face. He nods and offers to guide them there. Shen Yu's mother thanks him. On the way, Shen Yu's mother suggests that her daughter should get one of the campus SIM cards. Our protagonist agrees and starts explaining the registration process, suggesting they exchange contacts in case she runs into any difficulties. In response, the girl's mother suggests that he add her instead, leaving Shen Yu slightly speechless. Now, our protagonist accidentally makes a mistake by bringing Shen Yu directly to her dorm room. Shen Yu looks curious and asks how he knew her room number. Our protagonist quickly comes up with an excuse, saying he overheard her and her mother talking about it earlier, while thinking to himself how he almost messed up. Still, at the rate things are going, it will be difficult for him to earn his first pot of gold, so he needs to think of a faster way to make money. In the next scene, our protagonist sets up a small stand. This quickly draws the attention of many girls. Some come just to get a good look at him. One girl even comes to flirt. After making a purchase, she asks why the section of the flyer with his phone number is blocked out. Our protagonist blames it on the printing machine. Because of this, he simply offers to give her his number directly. While some people are dying of thirst, our protagonist is drowning. Just then, a guy suddenly calls out to him, revealing that more people want to buy the SIM cards. Seeing this, our protagonist comments that his promotion in the senior colleagues group chat has finally paid off. You see, earlier our protagonist joined different group chats and promoted himself as if he were a third person recommending the service. In the process, he not only attracted customers but also seniors who wanted to become his agents. That's how he ended up meeting Lu Shuo. Our protagonist praises Lu Shuo for his work, and the guy returns the compliment. Just then, a girl approaches and asks if the commission offer for referrals still applies. Our protagonist is momentarily surprised. He notices that the beautiful girl standing before him is Li Shiking, the top student and a future diplomat. Knowing this, when Li Shiking repeats her question, our protagonist not only confirms the commission deal but, like a seasoned businessman, sweetens the offer. He introduces a downline commission system, along with the opportunity to become the school's general agent. Li Shiking becomes interested when she hears about the potential profit. She accepts the deal and offers to send our protagonist a list of people after he provides his contact. Our protagonist thinks to himself that he is definitely on the right track. Meanwhile, Lu Shuo is left completely shocked. watching our protagonist close deals effortlessly as if it were nothing. Meanwhile, Su Qing tries calling our protagonist, but she finds that his number doesn't exist, which makes her anxious. The moment she hears Yan Yan talking about hanging out with some of our protagonist's dorm mates and asking if she plans to join, Su Qing immediately agrees. Her quick response makes her friend wonder why she agreed so readily. Seeing Yan Yan's stunned expression, Su Qing explains that she was bored staying in the dorm. In addition, she had already been thinking about going out. She says this while calmly applying her makeup. Because of this, Yan Yan studies her expression carefully and wonders if she is planning to meet her boyfriend. In response, Su Qing reveals that the person is not yet her boyfriend. Rather, that person is her future husband. The next scene takes us to the cafeteria, where Su Qing and Yan Yan wait for our protagonist's dorm mates. The moment the boys declare their arrival, Su Qing instantly gets up, expecting to greet our protagonist. But she quickly becomes disappointed when she realizes he didn't come. Naturally, she asks his dorm mates about him, which makes the boys feel a little awkward. Anyways, Brother Hao explains that he couldn't come because he had something important to do. At the same time, he can't help but wonder what kind of luck their buddy has. He didn't even show up, yet a beautiful girl is already looking for him. Meanwhile, Su Qing finds this impossible. Apparently, this was supposed to be the moment she met our protagonist. Now she wonders if this is some kind of butterfly effect caused by her regression. Yan Yan notices her troubled expression and playfully suggests she shouldn't worry, since they already know he couldn't come because he had something important to do. Despite the reassurance, Su Qing still can't help feeling anxious. Regardless, the boys remember why they came and suggest playing a card game. Elsewhere, at the University Town Telecom Business Hall, our protagonist enters the building. With a bright smile, a female staff member greets him and asks what he needs. Our protagonist responds that he wants to see the store manager, adding that he has an appointment to discuss an agency deal. After hearing this, the staff member directs him to the manager's office. At the same time, she silently comments on his composure. Despite being so young, he's already planning to talk business. The scene cuts to the store manager's office. Inside, a red-haired lady sits with her legs crossed. She asks our protagonist if he really wants to become an agent, saying he certainly has a lot of nerve. Our protagonist doesn't reply immediately. Instead, he hands over a small journal, explaining that it is a preliminary list. He further explains that the list includes 58 dorms and 247 students who have shown clear interest. He and his agents have already covered 3 main universities and faculties, and this is only the beginning. Reading the journal, the manager smirks, clearly impressed. It has only been a few days since school started, yet he already has over 30 sub-agents. Now she asks the serious question, what rebate the telecom business hall on his own campus is giving him. Our protagonist answers honestly. For the campus SIM card, which costs 150 yuan, he receives about 70 yuan, meaning his commission is roughly 45%. However, he wants 80 yuan, which means he's asking for a 53% commission. In response, the manager comments on his boldness, yet she still agrees. But our protagonist isn't finished. He reveals that since he's asking for a larger commission, he also has several additional demands. First, he wants the agency rights for the entire district, not just his campus. Second, he wants a 60% commission. And finally, he wants a 30% advance on SIM cards and promotional materials. The manager becomes intrigued. Leaning closer, she notes that he certainly has a big appetite and demands to know if he even understands her baseline cost. In response, our protagonist calmly points out that he isn't a kid, and his own family runs a business. Because of this, he explains how important the opening weeks of school are. He plans to capture over 40% of the new students, and even take out some of their competitors. With that said, he asks if exchanging a 60% commission for such results wouldn't allow her to sit back and simply enjoy the profits. In other words, the deal is a win-win. After thinking about it for a moment, she agrees to all his demands. When she mentions drafting a contract, our protagonist immediately agrees and prepares to sign it. Watching him calmly sign the agreement, the manager thinks to herself that even though he looks like a young boy, his composure is on a completely different level. Halfway through reading the contract, our protagonist suddenly realizes something and makes one final demand. He remembers that the store also offers an iPhone contract. Meanwhile, we return to the cafeteria. Li Qiang is furious because they are losing the card game, and according to him, it's all because of Su Qing. As he vents his frustration, Brother Hao tries to calm him down. He insists that Su Qing is just a novice and suggests he should go easy on her, or even consider teaching her. Hearing this, Li Chang scoffs at the idea. The girl is obviously interested in their protagonist, so why should he get involved? Seeing the tense atmosphere, Su Qing excuses herself, saying she needs to visit the restroom. In reality, she's worried about our protagonist, which is why she hasn't been able to focus on the game. So this time, she decides to try calling him one more time, silently praying that it works. At the same time, our protagonist has just received his iPhone. He comments on his strange luck. Even though he bought his SIM card from a different store, he somehow ended up with the exact same number from his previous life. And right on cue, he receives a call, leaving him surprised. Curious, he answers it while wondering why the number feels strangely familiar. But he doesn't hear anything from the other side, so he threatens to hang up. To his shock, Su Qing's voice suddenly comes through. Even more shocking is the fact that she reveals he writes novels, something only connected to his previous life. Because of this, our protagonist immediately hangs up. Su Qing is momentarily confused before quickly realizing her mistake. After all, our protagonist is only 19 years old right now. Not only does he not know her, he also hasn't started writing novels yet. Still, she considers it a small win and begins planning her next steps. Meanwhile, on the other side, our protagonist is completely baffled. He wonders what exactly is going on. Could it be that his regression ticket was a buy one, get one free deal? Because of this development, he realizes one thing very clearly. He absolutely cannot let his ex-wife know that he has also regressed. Later, the group talks while heading back. The moment Su Qing hears that the guys are returning to their dorm, an idea sparks in her head. Because of this, she suddenly insists on ending the hangout early and even offers to escort them back to their dorms. But the girl clearly isn't following the usual script. Even Yan Yan notices and wonders if she is really that desperate just to see our protagonist. Li Qiang turns to Brother Hao and asks why Su Qing is so interested in following them back to their dorm. Brother Hao sighs and asks if it isn't obvious. He then wonders why he doesn't have the same luck with Yan Yan. Fortunately for him, Yan Yan knows that he likes her. Unfortunately, she isn't interested in guys like him. She prefers men who are more mature and steady. The scene then transitions to the boys' dorm. At the same time, Su Qing spots our protagonist's figure. Excited, she immediately calls out to him. Our protagonist turns when he hears his name being called, but the moment he sees his ex-wife, he immediately regrets turning around. Meanwhile, Yan Yan is surprised. She never imagined that the guy she first met on the subway was actually Zhou Yuan. However, Su Qing is stunned when our protagonist asks who she is. Adjusting her composure, she properly introduces herself. Meanwhile, our protagonist understands why he fell for her in the first place. Su Qing's younger self was incredibly beautiful. On the other side, Yan Yan quietly observes their interaction. She was expecting some kind of couples banter. Instead, what she is witnessing looks more like a first-time pickup attempt. Su Qing insists that they should get to know each other better, while secretly thinking to herself that this time she will be the one chasing him. Knowing where this is going, our protagonist tells her that getting to know each other is fine. However, he adds that he already likes someone else. Su Qing reacts with shock. Meanwhile, our protagonist thinks to himself that he would be a fool to end up becoming her slave again, like he did in his previous life. Su Qing struggles to accept the fact that he likes someone else, so our protagonist asks if it's strange for someone to like another person. He then casually adds that the girl he likes is a freshman with long hair, and that he saw her wearing a hat and a dress. Su Qing grits her teeth after hearing this. Our protagonist has just casually described Shen Yu, and at that moment, his ex-wife silently vows that she will make him hers again. At the same time, Yan Yan walks over to greet him. In response, our protagonist asks for her contact information. Both girls are surprised when they see he is using an iPhone. His ex-wife wonders how that is even possible. Meanwhile, Yan Yan thinks to herself that our protagonist must be financially stable. Sensing something off, Su Qing quickly suggests that our protagonist should add her contact first. Now our protagonist finds himself in a difficult position. Fortunately, Yan Yan notices his troubled expression and suggests that they get to know each other another time. At that moment, Brother Hao informs our protagonist about the meeting with their counselor in class. Hearing this, our protagonist immediately suggests they head to class. At the same time, he silently thanks the heavens for saving him. The scene then shifts to the classroom. As usual, our protagonist's friends begin rating the girls in the class, while Li Qiang shows interest in one of them. Brother Hao immediately thinks something must be wrong with his friend's eyes. In response, Li Qiang fires back, saying something must be wrong with Brother Hao's eyes, because the girl he just pointed out looks average in his opinion. Brother Hao then tells his friend that he simply doesn't get it. Unlike Li Qiang, Brother Hao claims that he has class. Li Qiang dismisses this as his friend talking nonsense. Meanwhile, throughout this entire time, our protagonist is busy chatting with Li Shiqing. The girl reports that she has successfully brought in more customers. Our protagonist thinks to himself how efficient she is. Suddenly, the teacher enters the classroom. Addressing the class, he informs everyone that he will be their counselor for the next 4 years. In addition, the reason for this meeting is to choose a temporary class president before military training begins. He then asks if there are any volunteers. Hearing this, our protagonist tries to remember who the class president was in his previous life. Just then, the girl Brother Hao pointed out earlier steps forward. She introduces herself as Gu Yao Yao from southern Anhui and says she would like to run for female class president. Of course, our protagonist's friends are quick to support the suggestion. Soon, another student introduces himself and volunteers to be the male class president, even asking Gu Yao Yao if she is single. The guys in the class become furious at this clownish performance. Because of this, Brother Hao steps forward and nominates himself. He reminds the fool that becoming class president is not a joke, and definitely not meant for flirting. Soon, everyone's attention is drawn to our protagonist. He is busy working and promoting his SIM cards. This immediately distracts the class. Some guys start commenting that with that much data, they could game non-stop. Seeing this, the teacher raises his hand to stop our protagonist, but our protagonist misunderstands and thinks the teacher wants to buy one. So he immediately begins promoting the SIM card and even explains the benefits for professors. Turning toward the class, our protagonist reveals extra features of the SIM card. For example, a dorm of 4 people only needs 1 SIM card, and the internet fee is extremely cheap, just 50 yuan per month. If they want this deal, they should come find him. Meanwhile, the counselor secretly thinks to himself that our protagonist has just casually controlled the entire class better than he ever could. Soon, a female student asks our protagonist about becoming an agent and the commission system. Our protagonist explains that agents can earn 30% commission per SIM card sale, and the percentage can go up to 50% if they bring in 30 people. He then ends his speech by saying that he wants to run for class president, and he will offer extra data to anyone who votes for him. Free data. Needless to say, everyone immediately decides to vote for him, and just like that, our protagonist becomes the class president. Moments after class ends, our protagonist is suddenly approached by Gu Yao Yao. She says she would like to purchase a SIM card. Our protagonist is surprised, since someone from her dorm has already bought one. Hearing this, she smiles, making it obvious that she came for another reason. She asks him if she isn't welcome to support his business. Understanding her intentions, our protagonist addresses the class and tells everyone to drop off their ID cards so he can help process their SIM cards. Just then, the girl from earlier informs him that she has brought 5 more customers and playfully hopes he remembers her commission. Our protagonist promises to send it to her. Suddenly, Gu Yao Yao hands him her ID card. Our protagonist had been trying to avoid her, yet she still did this. In addition, she tells him that she is entrusting her ID to him, and if anything happens to it, the price he will pay will be far greater than his 50 gigabyte of data plan. Then she smiles and tells our protagonist, since he dared to ignore her, he will now have to pay the price. Later, in the next scene, our protagonist and his buddies are showering, while his friends, unsurprisingly, start talking about girls again. Each of them shares their own ideals about dating. Brother Hao remarks that if a guy isn't a player, then he's basically a complete novice who has no flirting skills at all. Ironically, this is coming from the same guy who got rejected by Yin Yan almost immediately. Speaking of her, Li Qiang asks if Brother Hao wasn't the one who was just talking about wanting a pure and romantic relationship. In response, Brother Hao laughs and calls his friend an idiot. He adds that he plans to marry Yan Yan eventually while still enjoying life outside in the meantime. Hearing this, our protagonist suggests that he should probably abandon that mindset. Brother Hao quickly reveals that he was only joking and that it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. He then asks our protagonist why he reacted that way. Our protagonist simply replies that they will eventually understand the answer themselves. However, the guys suddenly fall silent, stunned by our protagonist's physique. In response, he casually explains that he works out once in a while, instantly making the others jealous. Anyway, the conversation soon shifts as our protagonist is reminded about the upcoming military training. Li Qiang worries that he might not be able to find a suitable uniform. Our protagonist reassures him not to worry, promising that he'll help him sort it out. After returning to their dorm, the guys begin discussing the SIM cards again. When Li Qiang mentions that he also wants to get a SIM card from our protagonist, he reacts in shock, pointing out that there are 4 people in their dorm and now 3 of them want the SIM card. Li Qiang, however, doesn't see any problem with that. In his mind, if all of them use the same SIM card, it will simply cut costs. Hearing this logic, Brother Hao immediately mocks him, leaving Li Qiang feeling a bit embarrassed. But in the very next moment, both guys freeze in shock when they see our protagonist talking to a beautiful girl. The most shocking part? The girl is addressing him as a senior. Anyway, the girl pouts in annoyance and asks why our protagonist has been ignoring her messages about getting the SIM card. Seeing this, our protagonist admits his mistake and apologizes. He then suggests that she shouldn't stress herself too much. On top of that, he tells her to head back before she catches a cold, because if she does, she won't be able to come pick up the SIM card. Hearing his concern, the girl waves goodbye while thanking him before leaving. The moment she disappears, our protagonist's dorm mates immediately jump in. Brother Hao demands to know what his relationship with that girl is, and why she was addressing him as a senior. Our protagonist simply replies that perhaps the girl just thinks he looks older. However, as they continue walking, several other girls greet our protagonist, each of them calling him senior. Now his dorm mates are completely stunned once again. Their brains immediately begin calculating. They start thinking that our protagonist must be some incredibly low-key big shot who is hiding a secret. Otherwise, how could he easily charm girls and suddenly become a general agent like this? Because of this, our protagonist ends up getting ambushed in his own room as his dorm mates demand that he start explaining everything. Fortunately, he was expecting this. So our protagonist calmly comes up with an excuse, revealing that he actually has a twin older brother who is a sophomore at their school. The guys react in shock at this bombshell. Although they're not entirely convinced, they admit that if what he's saying is true, it would make sense for the girls to confuse him with his brother. Just then, our protagonist's phone suddenly begins ringing. He sees that it's Li Shiking calling. The moment he answers, she gets straight to the point and demands her commission, proudly announcing that she has already sold SIM cards to 30 people. Hearing her voice, his dorm mates can't help but wonder how he ended up becoming so popular with girls. Seeing their reactions, our protagonist quickly steps outside to continue the conversation. Once outside, he tells Li Shiking that he'll send her the commission. However, he's also curious and asks how she managed to get so many customers so quickly. Li Shiking immediately asks if she'll get paid for sharing that idea. Our protagonist instead suggests treating her to a meal, but Li Shiking's reply completely shocks him. She bluntly asks whether that meal can be converted into cash. For once, the dorm mates feel satisfied because it looks like our protagonist has just been rejected for the first time. Since she's so focused on money, our protagonist decides to make her an offer she simply can't refuse. And just like that, she spills everything. Apparently, she's been using the school forum to recruit people to help sell the SIM cards. She allows them to add their own markup. Since our protagonist gave her the authority to sell however she wanted, she set her price at 140, while the others buy from her and resell for 145. Hearing this, our protagonist immediately realizes how dangerous this could become. Not only would it be unfair to competitors, but it could also cause serious trouble later. Because of that, he makes a mental note to warn her about it when they meet the next day. Seeing our protagonist's serious expression, his dorm mates start teasing him again and ask about the girl. Our protagonist simply reveals that she's actually his business partner. Of course, he adds that the boys will struggle to understand this concept. After all, none of them are as handsome as him, and none of them are as good at business either. His jab instantly reminds the boys of something important. They should probably go to sleep. Meanwhile, as our protagonist sleeps, he dreams about Su Qing. In the dream, she declares that she will never let him go even in this life. Our protagonist immediately wakes up in shock. While most people see monsters in their nightmares, he sees his ex-wife. Because of this, our protagonist suddenly comes to a realization. He begins to suspect that the reason the current Su Qing has been acting so strangely is because she might also suspect that he has regressed. His expression turns serious. If that's the case, then he needs to confirm it. And with that thought in mind, our protagonist begins making plans. The next scene takes us to our protagonist's school gymnasium. Our protagonist and Brother Hao are sorting out the military training uniforms when Gu Yaoyao shows up. She becomes puzzled when our protagonist notes that she arrived just in time. Without wasting any time, he hands over the duty of sorting and handing out uniforms to her, saying he has an important business matter to attend to. Before leaving, he promises to make it up to her by buying her a meal. Gu Yaoyao's dorm mate expresses irritation when they see this. After all, they all agreed that she would be the one chasing our protagonist. So why does it look like Gu Yaoyao is the one showing interest instead? In response, Gu Yaoyao simply shrugs and says our protagonist isn't her friend's boyfriend. Everyone has a fair chance to pursue him. Hearing this only irritates the girl even more. After all, our protagonist is not only handsome and well-spoken, but also very career-minded, so she is determined to secure him at any cost. Meanwhile, Su Qing observes the two girls fighting over our protagonist and wonders why things are so different from her past life. Just then, Yan Yan suddenly appears, startling her while addressing her as class president. She wonders why Su Qing was spacing out and concludes that she might be thinking about our protagonist. Su Qing replies by asking what she means. In response, Yan Yan studies her carefully and wonders what kind of charm our protagonist used to make Su Qing so obsessed with him. As if reading her friend's thoughts, Su Qing simply tells her to get back to work. Right on cue, Brother Hao appears and offers to help. Seeing this as perfect timing, Yan Yan asks him about the deal between our protagonist and Su Qing. Brother Hao replies honestly, saying that our protagonist isn't interested in Su Qing at all. Yan Yan reacts in disbelief. She explains how outstanding Su Qing is. In addition, she recounts Su Qing's actions the previous day that made her become class president. Hearing this, Brother Hao defends our protagonist. He mentions that he is outstanding as well. In fact, he adds that our protagonist is not only their class president, but he is also currently the general agent for the university campus SIM cards. Hearing how he managed to make data so cheap, Yan Yan interrupts him and asks why Brother Hao didn't tell her sooner. He simply replies that she never asked. Now Yan Yan begins contemplating. She remembers a senior once bragging about how much money he made selling SIM cards. This means that if our protagonist is the general agent, he must be making even more money. To confirm her thoughts, she asks how many people are working under him. Brother Hao reveals that he has a lot, and he even suspects our protagonist's connections might reach other universities. He adds that our protagonist isn't lacking female attention and suggests the girls give up on him. Since our protagonist isn't interested in a girl as outstanding as Su Qing, Yan Yan becomes curious. She asks for his contact because she wants to buy a SIM card. Hearing this, Brother Hao offers to give her one since he is also considered one of our protagonist's agents, but she instantly dumps cold water on him, reminding Brother Hao that she can't get a better deal from him. Outside, our protagonist runs into Chen Wen. She has come to check on his results while proudly bragging about her own numbers. Our protagonist almost forgot about it. Thinking quickly, he asks about the commission she received from those numbers. In response, she proudly reveals that she made 30 yuan per person. Since she signed up 20 people, she made 600 yuan in just one day. She then asks if that isn't impressive. Our protagonist nods, as if to say that it's only impressive to her. Anyway, he offers her 50 yuan per person as commission if she works for him. Chen Wen seems confused. Just then, people from the campus telecom business hall arrive. Our protagonist jokes that if they had been any later, he would have signed with another company. In response, they remind him about contract breach penalties. Anyway, the female staff member from before asks if his people have arrived yet. Our protagonist answers that there is still time. In addition, he suggests they start by processing Gu Yaoyao's card since she personally handed it to him earlier. The lady notices how pretty Gu Yaoyao is and naturally asks if she is his girlfriend. In response, our protagonist jokes that he is still single and waiting for her to break up with her boyfriend. Maybe when she is 60 and he is 50, she will realize he is a great catch. The woman laughs and tells him not to joke around, calling out to him, Chen Wen, who looks completely confused, demands to know what is going on. Because of this, our protagonist finally informs her that he is currently the general agent for their university campus. In addition, he asks if she would consider working under him for a higher commission. Before she can respond, the scene shifts. A moment later, Lu Shuo arrives with more people, leaving our protagonist stunned. Bro literally brought the entire squad for him. Soon after, Li Shiqing also arrives with her customers while complaining that the rest haven't shown up yet. Our protagonist understands and tells her that regardless of whether they show up or not, he will still pay the commission. And just like that, our protagonist simply stands there and watches everything gradually unfold. He is impressed and glad that Lu Shuo and Li Shiqing know exactly what to do. The growing crowd naturally draws the curiosity of people nearby. Seeing this, our protagonist immediately puts on a bright smile and switches into salesman mode. After hearing about the benefits of the SIM card, some people want to register, but they comment that the line is too long. Apparently, these people are parents helping their kids move into the dorms, so our protagonist explains that the flyer contains a map. They can settle their kids in first and then come back later when they have time. And if they don't understand anything, there's already a phone number on the flyer they can call. Satisfied with his explanation, our protagonist turns around and asks why Lu Shuo and the others are staring at him. In response, Lu Shuo says our protagonist sounded like an expert sales representative. He even doubts that they graduated from the same school. Meanwhile, Li Shiqing and Chen Wen both wear thoughtful expressions. Li Shiqing begins thinking about following our protagonist around to learn from him, while Chen Wen starts calculating how much more profit she could make in a day if she worked under him. Moments later, Li Shiqing tries promoting the SIM card to a lady who doesn't show any interest. Seeing this, our protagonist chuckles slightly and tells her that some people are just like that, and she shouldn't take it to heart. Turning to Chen Wen, our protagonist asks if she has finally considered his offer. The girl agrees immediately. Later at noon, things seem to be going smoothly, so our protagonist decides to treat everyone to snacks. He also can't help but express joy about the amount of money he just made. As if on cue, Brother Hao arrives with the girls, commenting that it looks like he made a lot of money. Our protagonist replies that it's not that much and asks why they all came together, especially after seeing Su Qing. Out of nowhere, Yan Yan suddenly asks why our protagonist hasn't replied to her message, instantly making both Brother Hao and Su Qing glare at her. Our protagonist is surprised that Yan Yan added him on WeChat. He explains that the reason he couldn't reply earlier was because he had been extremely busy. Meanwhile, Su Qing studies both our protagonist and Yan Yan and thinks to herself that something isn't right. This wasn't the original script from her past life. Speaking of Yan Yan, she grabs our protagonist's phone and notices that it's an iPhone, the latest model. Our protagonist tries to take it back while she jokes that maybe she should become his agent just to receive one as well. However, Su Qing suddenly interrupts them. She asks why our protagonist has become an agent, saying that it's completely different from the past, which leaves everyone confused. Our protagonist responds with visible irritation, asking what she means and whether he isn't allowed to become an agent. He then adds that Su Qing seems to be paying special attention to him. Her face reddens with anger as she demands to know if our protagonist is really from this world. In response, Yan Yan bursts into laughter. She never imagined their class president had such a sense of humor. Meanwhile, our protagonist comments that her sense of humor is rather strange, while secretly thinking to himself that Su Qing is definitely becoming suspicious. Just then, Shen Yu arrives and greets our protagonist, addressing him as a senior. Seeing her, our protagonist immediately understands that she came for the SIM card. He takes the opportunity to explain that he wasn't actually a senior and apologizes for tricking her and her mother earlier. Yan Yan quickly interjects, saying that it doesn't change the fact that he tricked them. Therefore, the price he has to pay is treating them to a meal. Just then, Liu Shuo and Li Shiqing appear. Seeing the opportunity, our protagonist introduces them to everyone. Meanwhile, Lu Shuo is thrilled that our protagonist introduced him as his best friend. However, Brother Hao, as usual, is more interested in the girl. So Liu Shuo takes the liberty of explaining that Li Shiqing is actually their classmate, and also a childhood friend of our protagonist. Su Qing doesn't react well to this news. Apparently, our protagonist never mentioned her before, so she begins hoping that it's just some kind of temporal distortion. But at that moment, several girls riding motorcycles suddenly appear. They show up unannounced, and their leader, a red-haired girl, asks if they are the ones selling SIM cards. In response, the group silently observes the girls. However, they are stunned when Li Shiking mistakenly assumes that the newcomers are interested in buying SIM cards. Our protagonist, on the other hand, can already sense that the girls came looking for trouble. As if on cue, the biker girl slaps the flyer away and demands to know who gave them the right to sell SIM cards at a lower price. She adds that they actually dared to mess with her brother's business. Li Shiking thinks there might be some misunderstanding. She even wonders if her post somehow reached the wrong people. But when the girl suddenly grabs her by the hand, Li Shiking screams for her to let go. She insists that lowering the price is their own business, and if they don't like it, they should simply come up with a better offer. Annoyed, the biker girl shoves her, calling her words complete trash. But our protagonist steps in just in time to stop Li Shiking from falling and asks if she is all right. Seeing this, Yan Yan comments on his swift move and says it was kind of hot. Su Qing, however, says it was completely cringe. Just then, reinforcements arrive. The girl's brother strolls in arrogantly, saying he wants to see the fool who dared to mess with his business and sell SIM cards on his turf. The biker girl immediately becomes excited upon seeing her brother arrive. The man walks up and asks if our protagonist is the one in charge. Our protagonist confirms and asks about the newcomer's identity. The man doesn't answer directly. Instead, he reveals that he once signed a contract with the business hall to handle campus SIM cards in the Jinkin area. In other words, according to him, our protagonist is selling on his territory. Crossing his arms, our protagonist calmly asks to see the contract that supposedly allows him to control SIM card sales in that area. The man doesn't realize that our protagonist now manages the entire district. Not to mention that his sister just came over and laid hands on Li Shiking, so he asks how exactly they plan to settle that matter. Hearing this, our protagonist's group immediately supports him, and Li Shiking secretly enjoys the feeling of being protected. The man understands that our protagonist's response means the issue can't be resolved through negotiation. So he suggests settling things the physical way. Our protagonist calmly replies that he's been waiting for that. Because of this, the man suddenly realizes that our protagonist might actually have some backbone. The look in his eyes shows that he isn't bluffing. So he gives our protagonist a time and a location, and dares him to show up if he has the guts. After they leave, Li Shiking apologizes, thinking that everything is her fault. But our protagonist tells her not to worry, saying the group were just a bunch of troublemakers anyway. Meanwhile, Yan Yan watches their interaction and tells her friend that, judging by how things are going, it will be difficult for her to win over our protagonist. At the same time, Su Qing continues wondering why everything is so different. She even begins suspecting that he might be deliberately changing things. That thought sparks something crucial in her mind. Our protagonist's actions just now mirror something he would only be capable of doing 10 years in the future. So when Brother Hao jokingly tells Yan Yan that she should stay away from our protagonist, Su Qing suddenly demands that our protagonist explain himself and asks if Li Shiqing is the girl he likes. In response, our protagonist coldly asks what right she has to question him, before telling her to mind her own business. Because of this, Yan Yan quickly acts to defuse the situation, requesting Brother Hao to get SIM cards for them. Brother Hao is happy to comply. Our protagonist tells Li Shiqi to assist and asks them to head back first because he still has something to do. Su Qing becomes furious upon seeing this and thinks she needs to plan her next step much better. Shen Yu also observes their interaction and concludes that the one person Su Qing has a crush on doesn't like her. Later that day, before our protagonist meets the biker guy, he asks Liu Shuo how many guys he can pull up. Liu Shuo replies that he has 49 guys in his class he could call over. In addition, he assures our protagonist not to worry while even giving him his allowance. Our protagonist understands his friend's concern, but hands him some extra cash, saying this will cover the meals. Because of this, Liu Shuo regrets not interacting much with him back in high school. Now he thinks of our protagonist as his big brother. Our protagonist just shrugs off the comment, and Liu Shuo happily goes to arrange reinforcements. Once everything for the day is done, our protagonist heads back with Li Shiqing. After he hands her the commission, Li Shiqing voices her concerns. She feels she doesn't deserve it, considering her poor management of the situation caused our protagonist trouble. When our protagonist tells her that this is what she earned and that she deserves it, she becomes emotional. Apparently, she overheard his conversation with Liu Shuo and thinks to herself that it's all her fault and that he is paying for it. Because of this, our protagonist teases her, saying he never imagined the class president during his high school days was such a crybaby. In response, she stutters and suggests treating him to a meal. However, she immediately realizes how it sounded and tries to explain herself. But to her surprise, our protagonist agrees to go. He even suggests that they watch a movie during the Mid-Autumn Festival. With that, it is settled. Our protagonist watches as she heads back to her dorm. Meanwhile, our protagonist's thoughts are revealed. Li Shiqing is definitely a good girl, and he doesn't deserve someone like her because, after his previous life, our protagonist has no intention of getting married again. The next scene finally takes us to the meetup location. Seeing our protagonist, one of the biker guy's men picks up a bottle after confirming he is the one. In response, our protagonist advises him to keep the bottle aside. Ignoring this warning, the guy smugly thinks our protagonist is just acting tough. But in the next moment, he is punched so hard by our protagonist that he almost loses his lunch. Seeing this, Brother Hao and his men are left stunned. A single punch from our protagonist sends the guy flying. Worse, Liu Shuo has just arrived with reinforcements and witnesses the guys trying to lay hands on our protagonist. Seeing this, Brother Hao and his crew immediately realize too late that they are cooked. Liu Shuo didn't just bring reinforcements, he brought an army. Brother Hao does a head count and wonders if our protagonist is some low-key gang boss. Because of this, he begins pleading for his life, calling everything a misunderstanding. When our protagonist doesn't respond, Brother Hao drinks a full bottle of beer, since everything was his fault. Acting as our protagonist's right-hand man, Liu Shuo asks if he only drank one bottle. In the end, Brother Hao drinks 3 bottles. Just as he is about to go for the 4th, our protagonist stops him. He says he is partly to blame as well. After all, if he had warned Li Shiqing earlier, they wouldn't be having this conversation. Since everyone is reflecting, Brother Hao also blames himself. He knows that any agent who cuts prices to sell more SIM cards wouldn't go far in the business. Apparently, his little sister was the instigator and caused this situation. Hearing this, our protagonist talks about compensating Brother Hao for the customers he stole. Brother Hao immediately refuses. He reveals that he is in his finals, meaning he won't be in school much longer. And that's how the situation is resolved. Since the guys all showed up for our protagonist, he declares that no one is leaving without eating or drinking, and the guys cheer. Out of curiosity, our protagonist jokingly asks how Liu Shuo managed to assemble such an army. In response, the guy reveals that he only told his class president he would treat them to a meal. In the end, the president summoned all the guys. Our protagonist is impressed and gives him a thumbs up after hearing this. Meanwhile, news of his clash with Brother Hao becomes a hot topic on the school forum. Our protagonist's dorm mate begins talking about the exploding comments. Seeing this, our protagonist reacts with a mix of anger and shock. He immediately dials the admin because he isn't going to let his reputation get ruined over some misunderstanding. With that, he angrily demands that the post be deleted from the school forum immediately. Within seconds, the post is gone. Chang Hao is genuinely surprised that the post actually disappears. At the same time, our protagonist receives a call from Su Qing. His friend sees this and believes she is calling regarding the post. In response, our protagonist asks what makes him so sure. Apparently, his job now is telling Yan Yan everything that happens. So that's how Su Qing knows. The next scene takes us to the girls' dorm room, moments before Su Qing called our protagonist. Yan Yan sees Su Qing posing like a model and decides to take a photo of her legs, confident it will top the rankings. Apparently, the school has a forum where students post photos of their legs for gooners to rate them. When Su Qing notices, she immediately insists that Yan Yan delete it, but Yan Yan refuses. She explains that she knows someone who would actually pay just to see the photo. Just then, Shen Yu intervenes. Apparently, the 3 girls are all dorm mates. Turning to Su Qing, Shen Yu asks if she isn't curious about how our protagonist became the general agent and whether they have found anything about it. Speaking of our protagonist, Yan Yan suddenly remembers how he tricked them. Putting on a dramatic performance, she reenacts the scene, pretending our protagonist approached them with a glass and a mature aura. Yan Yan finds the whole thing cute, but Shen Yu, feeling slightly embarrassed, asks how she was supposed to know they were in the same year when even her own mom fell for it. Because of this, Yan Yan asks Su Qing if she doesn't think our protagonist acts much older than his age. This causes Su Qing to pause and think. She becomes even more suspicious that our protagonist might have regressed just like her. But without any evidence, she dismisses the thought and instead considers confronting him directly. Suddenly, Yan Yan lets out a startled cry after receiving a text from Brother Hao regarding our protagonist. She informs the girls that our protagonist is currently trending on the school website. The girls show stunned expressions as Yan Yan begins recounting our protagonist's clash with Brother Hao. Rumors are spreading that he might be some kind of second-generation gangster. Puzzled, Su Qing thinks this is impossible, since our protagonist is supposed to be an ordinary student. Seeing her friend's expression, Yan Yan concludes that this must be the reason Su Qing is so interested in him. But suddenly, Su Qing's expression stiffens as anxiety fills her mind. She begins to wonder if she reincarnated into a different world instead of regressing to her past. Her friends also notice her strange expression. While Shen Yu wants to know what's wrong, Yan Yan quickly reassures them that the post might have been exaggerated and everything could just be wild rumors. Now this is when Su Qing decides to call our protagonist to ask him some questions, hoping to confirm whether he is actually the same person from her past life. Back in the present, after our protagonist realizes why she was calling, he answers the phone, only to hear her asking if he is sure that he is the real Zhou Yuwen. In response, our protagonist asks if something is wrong with her head. If he isn't Zhou Yuwen, then who else could he possibly be? Because of this, Su Qing suggests that they meet and talk privately. Our protagonist immediately refuses and informs her that he already has a girlfriend. Su Qing is left shocked, as if she had been struck by lightning. Seeing her reaction, her friends wonder what happened with our protagonist. Su Qing suddenly runs into Shen Yu's arms, sobbing as she says that our protagonist has a girlfriend and that the world owes her an explanation. She is convinced that the Zhou Yuan she loved no longer exists in this world, and she begins questioning the very purpose of her rebirth. Seeing this, Yan Yan panics and tries to reassure Su Qing, telling her that she is outstanding and definitely won't lack options. But Su Qing doesn't respond. She believes this is all her fault. With this development, she thinks she might never get married in this life, and wonders what the point of starting over even is. Confused, Yan Yan asks if her friend is really saying that she can't date or marry another guy if it isn't our protagonist. Hearing this, Su Qing tells Yan Yan that she will only understand her feelings once she meets a man she truly loves. At that moment, Yan Yan's phone buzzes with a chat notification. Turning to Su Qing, Yan Yan reveals that our protagonist was lying about having a girlfriend. As usual, Brother Hao, who would do anything for Yan Yan, ends up revealing what actually happened during the clash. Shen Yu tells Su Qing that it was all just a misunderstanding, but Su Qing insists that our protagonist still seems indifferent toward her, and she doesn't understand why. Because of this, Yan Yan becomes fired up and decides to arrange a meetup so that her friend can confront our protagonist directly. Chang Hao hesitates after receiving the message, momentarily doubting what he should say. Turning to our protagonist, he reports the situation and asks him to come to the meetup, saying that his happiness is on the line. In response, our protagonist bluntly says that he doesn't care and won't be going. Brother Hao tries to persuade him, insisting that it's just a regular dorm hangout and that refusing to go is antisocial behavior. Our protagonist asks how the guy's brain even works. One of the guys calls our protagonist arrogant, while Brother Hao begs him to at least show his face. The poor guy has already promised Yan Yan, and if our protagonist doesn't come, she might think he is dishonest. Turning to the others, Brother Hao asks if what he said wasn't correct. Of course the guys agree. After all, who could turn down free food? Seeing this, our protagonist reluctantly agrees, but only if Brother Hao covers his portion. Brother Hao immediately agrees. After all, he thinks he still has a shot with Yan Yan. As for the rest of the guys, he coldly tells them that he is only covering for our protagonist and that they should figure something out themselves. This causes Li Qiang to call him stingy. Just then, our protagonist's thoughts are interrupted when he notices Lu Shuo calling. Puzzled, he asks what's going on. Lu Shuo begins by laughing about the rumor spreading that our protagonist is some kind of gangster. Our protagonist thinks to himself that the guy must be hopeless if he only called this late just to joke about rumors. Turning serious, Liu Shuo angrily reports the current situation in the Department of External Relations. Apparently, the head of the department helps students find part-time jobs, but takes huge kickbacks in return. The students work hard, while the man does nothing and still takes 50% of their earnings. So he is calling our protagonist because he believes he is smart enough to come up with a solution. Hearing this, our protagonist recalls his previous life. He remembers that it wasn't just the department head. Even the student union used the convenience of their positions to exploit free labor. Back then, he knew about it but was unable to do anything, but this time will be completely different. To Liu Shuo's shock, our protagonist tells him to handle it himself. He then explains a recent business trend. The demand for wedding event labor has been increasing. Since many of his classmates need jobs, Liu Shuo should create a channel and become the middleman. In other words, he would be the one responsible for negotiations. Liu Shuo wonders why this idea had never crossed his mind before. Our protagonist then lays out an elaborate plan. First, Liu Shuo should use the current rumors about being our protagonist's right-hand man to gather unemployed students and form a group. For the next step, he will need a few trusted brothers. Their targets will be wedding vendors, shopping malls, and basically any places where their potential clients operate. The goal is to let them know that he can provide stable and reliable labor for wedding events without any middleman cuts. Our protagonist makes it clear that Liu Shuo shouldn't take commissions like the department head. Instead, he should focus on building a stable system and helping others. When Liu Shuo agrees to handle it and adds that they are all brothers from the same hometown as our protagonist shows a faint smile. He notes to himself that these channels and connections are just the beginning, and they will definitely pay off in the future. Later that night, Cheng Hao was on his phone talking about the dorm meetup that would happen after the military training. Our protagonist couldn't help but think that his friend was completely hopeless when it came to Yan Yan. Still, he told him to stop thinking about it, and advised him to go to sleep quickly, since military training would begin the following day. However, the guy ignored him and asked why they should sleep now, noting that it was still too early. Our protagonist simply ignored him in response. He already knew what the training would be like and wished he could just skip the entire thing. While our protagonist slept peacefully, Brother Hao was still awake, busy imagining how he could impress the girls. Perhaps Yan Yan might become his girlfriend once she saw that he was somewhat outstanding, just like our protagonist. Just then, his thoughts were interrupted by a loud noise that made him wonder if there was an earthquake. Unfortunately, he realized our protagonist's warning far too late. Now Brother Hao wondered if sleeping was even possible, considering Li Qiang was snoring as loudly as a broken truck. The scene then shifts to the following day. Li Qiang notices the dark circles under Brother Hao's eyes and wonders why he looks like a ghost. Brother Hao angrily replies that the fool has the nerve to ask after what he put him through the previous night. Our protagonist interrupts them, reminding them that it was time to head outside. Only then does Brother Hao realize that today is the day of military training. As a result, he ends up being the last person to arrive at the field. Seeing this, the military instructor immediately tells him to halt. In response, Brother Hao scratches his head and casually greets the instructor. The instructor loudly demands to know where he was when the assembly was called. Meanwhile, our protagonist silently hopes that Brother Hao doesn't mess up his plans. The instructor demands that Brother Hao speak loudly and shout "report" whenever answering his questions. Following the instructions, Brother Hao gives a weak excuse. Fed up, the instructor tells him to cut the nonsense and get in line. When he finally joins the line, Brother Hao casually whispers to our protagonist that the instructor has a punchable face. Our protagonist remains silent. It's as if he already knows what is about to happen after Brother Hao insulted the instructor. Sure enough, Brother Hao is immediately called out again, and the instructor orders him to squat for 30 minutes as punishment. Seeing this, Brother Hao boldly suggests making it 20 instead. That only makes the instructor even more furious. In the end, Brother Hao is forced to move aside and begin his punishment. Watching from the sidelines, Su Qing notices Yan Yan observing the scene and teasingly asks if she is worried about her sweetheart being punished. Yan Yan immediately snaps back and playfully swears at her. Soon after, the instructor addresses the entire group before the main training begins. He states that he isn't looking for trouble, so if any student has health complications, they should report it immediately. Apparently, that was our protagonist's cue to act. Handing over a report, he calmly claims that he is feeling unwell and requests permission to leave. Seeing this, the instructor simply waves dismissively and tells him to head to the infirmary. And just like that, our protagonist secures a free pass. After all, going through the same hellish military training twice was definitely not on his agenda. Naturally, the other students begin to wonder if our protagonist is actually sick. However, Yan Yan simply chuckles, thinking he is a coward for leaving even before the training begins. But several hours later, she immediately regrets her decision to stay. Only then does she realize that our protagonist, as usual, is a cunning fox. Unable to endure it any longer, she makes up her own excuse, claiming that her stomach hurts and that perhaps her period is coming. And just like that, she secures her own free pass. Seeing this, Brother Hao suddenly clutches his stomach. The instructor immediately asks him furiously if he is also on his period. In response, Brother Hao gives the classic excuse that he needs to use the restroom. This only makes the instructor even angrier. He tells Brother Hao that even if he craps his pants, he will stand there and catch it for him. 2 hours later, the scene shifts to the infirmary. After checking on his business matters, our protagonist decides to head back to the infirmary. To his surprise, he finds Yan Yan already inside. Naturally surprised, he asks what she is doing there and if she is slacking off. Yan Yan replies sarcastically, pointing out that our protagonist seems to have recovered from his illness rather quickly. In response, our protagonist calmly informs her that the day's training is already over. Seeing his reaction, Yan Yan calls him a cunning fox. Meanwhile, back at the training ground, the instructor suddenly calls out Brother Hao's name. Brother Hao immediately assumes that the instructor wants to punish him again. But when the instructor tells him to stop fooling around and asks for his name, Brother Hao quickly reports it. To his surprise, the instructor actually praises his performance and assigns him a position in the class. Later that same day in the male dorms, Brother Hao wastes no time trying to impress Yan Yan by bragging about his new position in the military training. Meanwhile, our protagonist begins thinking to himself. He knows that he cannot rely on selling SIM cards for long because the market will eventually become saturated. As he is thinking of other ways to make money, his phone suddenly buzzes with a message from Su Qing. Reading the text, he sees that Su Qing is asking why he skipped today's training. As usual, our protagonist keeps his reply short and simple. While reflecting on the past, he admits to himself that he once envied Su Qing in his previous life. He remembers that she was very good at fashion design. If he were in her position, he would have definitely used that opportunity to make money. The moment that thought crosses his mind, another idea suddenly hits him. Only then does he remember that he used to write novels in his previous life, so he decides to start writing again. But first, he does some research. He soon notices that novels with an urban theme are currently in low supply. With that in mind, he begins drafting the first chapter of his novel. Moments later, he checks the feedback. Just as expected, the response is very positive. In fact, he even plans to write the novels of famous authors who have yet to publish their works in the future. After all, that's exactly how you secure an unfair advantage. The day finally came for our protagonist's group to meet the girls. Our protagonist looks at his two friends and wonders if their real goal is to bring a girl back home. Of course, for these guys, it's all or nothing. Li Qiang even begs Brother Hao to help him secure a baddie, while our protagonist watches them with a deadpan expression. At the school gate, Yan Yan appears with the girls. She immediately complains that our protagonist's group kept them waiting. Brother Hao quickly steps forward and apologizes, saying they will definitely make it up to them. Out of curiosity, he asks about the unfamiliar face among them. Yan Yan explains that the dark-haired girl is her roommate, Lu Lin. She adds that Lu Lin is an introvert, so the guys shouldn't get their hopes up. Later that day, onlookers can't stop staring at the girls. One unfortunate guy casually comments about how pretty they are, only for his girlfriend to become extremely furious and threaten to dump him on the spot. Anyway, the group soon arrives at their first stop. Entering the restaurant, Brother Hao proudly announces that he will be covering the meal and orders a buffet. Our protagonist silently thinks to himself that this is completely different from his previous life and wonders why Brother Hao is suddenly acting so generous. Meanwhile, Su Qing approaches our protagonist. She explains that she discovered he doesn't actually have a girlfriend, and our protagonist casually confirms it. This makes her ask why he intentionally lied to her, saying he obviously wasn't like this before. In response, our protagonist asks whether they were ever that close and questions why she keeps pestering him, since he has absolutely zero interest in dating her. Su Qing is shocked by his blunt reply. She explains that he doesn't necessarily have to date her. They could simply be friends. If that's the case, our protagonist asks why she keeps bothering him so much, while secretly thinking that she's just trying to play hard to get like she did in his previous life. Because of this, Su Qing lowers her gaze and asks if he believes in past lives. She explains that she had a long dream where they knew each other, and in that dream he was like a knight who constantly protected her. Our protagonist replies sarcastically, suggesting that she might as well say they got married in their past life, and that's why she keeps pestering him now. Hearing that, Su Qing stares at him in surprise and asks how he knew. Realizing his mistake, Our protagonist quickly covers it up by jokingly asking if she also knows the next winning lottery numbers. The question leaves her speechless for a moment, but then she tells him directly that she regressed and that in their past life, he was her husband. She even adds that they had children together. Our protagonist is stunned after hearing this. At this point, he thinks she is simply talking nonsense, especially since in his memories they never had children to begin with. So he advises Suqing not to tell anyone what she just said. Otherwise, people might think she has gone mad. After their conversation, they return to the table. Yan Yan immediately starts urging everyone to eat and drink to their heart's content. Remembering the stunt the guys pulled at the gate, she insists that they should at least drink a glass as punishment. Brother Hao readily agrees and takes the lead. The rest of the guys, including our protagonist, follow along. Curious, Shen Yu turns to Suqing and mentions that she heard our protagonist went to the same high school as her. She asks if the two of them were high school sweethearts. Our protagonist immediately replies that they weren't that close. Suqing also agrees with that statement after all. In the past, they were divorced spouses. Brother Hao then chimes in unhelpfully, suggesting that if the two of them really had some connection, he could arrange a ride so they could go on a double date with him and Yan Yan. Yan Yan immediately shuts the idea down, asking who he thinks his girlfriend is. Still curious, Shen Yu asks why Suqing keeps insisting that our protagonist writes novels. Our protagonist is surprised by Shen Yu's interest in writing. Meanwhile, Suqing explains that her suspicion comes from the fact that our protagonist used to visit the library frequently back in high school. Hearing this, Shen Yu's eyes light up with excitement as she asks if our protagonist likes books. Suqing almost forgets that Shen Yu is a complete bookworm and realizes she can't let the two of them get too close. However, before she can interrupt, our protagonist calmly replies that he loves reading and even lists several books and genres he enjoys. This only makes Shen Yu even more excited. But Brother Hao quickly interrupts, suggesting they stop talking about books since not everyone is a bookworm like them. He even suggests that they exchange contact information and continue their discussion later. As usual, the young man proves to be completely unhelpful. Originally, Yan Yan thought that only Suqing was interested in our protagonist, but now it seems Shen Yu might also be developing feelings for him. Anyway, Suqing resumes the conversation, saying she has never actually seen our protagonist reading before. In response, he asks whether she is his twin or if she has been secretly watching him all this time. Speaking of books, Li Qiang suddenly brings up a new author who recently became popular online. According to him, the author even bragged that he would update 20,000 words in a single day, or he would castrate himself. Apparently, that author happens to be our protagonist. Brother Hao expresses shocked admiration, saying the guy must have balls of steel. Meanwhile, Yan Yan thinks it's probably just hype. At the same time, Suqing notices our protagonist talking about that same author while carefully avoiding her gaze. Only then does she realize that he must be making use of future knowledge. At that moment, she silently swears to herself that she will not fall behind him again. Yan Yan then turns to Lu Lin, noticing that the girl hasn't said a single word during the entire discussion. She asks what brought her to study in Jinling. Lu Lin calmly explains that she didn't have any particular reason, and admits that she was admitted through an adjustment placement. Because of this, our protagonist suddenly becomes curious and wonders why he never noticed her in his previous life. Calmly, Lu Lin asks if they mind if she smokes. This simple question instantly makes Li Qiang fall in love. Half an hour later, everyone was done with their meal. Brother Hao excitedly suggested that they move to their next stop. They headed toward a popular KTV hotspot, while Li Qiang kept praising Brother Hao along the way. Since the boys had already been treated to dinner, the girls decided to pay this time. Each of them agreed to split the bill, except for Lu Lin. When they arrived at the venue, a staff member asked if they had a reservation. Yan Yan stepped forward to make one, but Brother Hao explained that he wanted to cover it. However, she turned him down, joking that if he kept treating them like this, he might end up being treated no better than a dog. But to their surprise, someone had already made a reservation for 8 people beforehand. Our protagonist stepped forward and confirmed that he was the one who booked the Starry Sky Ceiling luxury suite. Apparently, it was extremely expensive, and Brother Hao immediately began to suspect that our protagonist might be some low-key rich young master. Soon after, a female staff member led them to their suite. As expected from a luxury room, the place looked stunning. Our protagonist casually explained that since Brother Hao had treated them to dinner earlier, he wanted to return the favor. Yan Yan immediately seized the opportunity to take photos, joking that broke people like them might not get the chance to experience something like this again anytime soon. She even took a photo of our protagonist while he was smiling. Meanwhile, Brother Hao and Li Qiang went to grab drinks. Our protagonist was browsing through the song list when Shen Yu approached him. He asked what song she wanted to sing, and to his surprise, it turned out to be one of his favorites. Shen Yu smiled and called it a coincidence, saying she never expected that they would have so much in common. Meanwhile, Yan Yan began to grow curious as she noticed the two chatting happily. Our protagonist was about to ask the others for song suggestions when he accidentally bumped into Yan Yan. He was startled and wondered why he suddenly felt something soft. Only then did he realize that his arm was pressed between her twin peaks. Realizing what had happened, he froze for a moment before quickly making an excuse. Seeing his reaction, Yan Yan teased him playfully and asked if he enjoyed it. Watching from the side, Brother Hao loudly demanded to know what they were doing. Fortunately, he was a bit drunk and didn't fully notice what had happened. Our protagonist secretly thought that he had just dodged a marathon of explanations. Soon after, Su Qing sat close to him and asked what he had been doing with Yan Yan. Our protagonist replied that he was simply picking songs. Su Qing pouted and stared at him suspiciously, asking if they really needed to stand that close just to pick a song. Our protagonist ignored her question, which made her wonder how she had managed to fall for him in the first place. Just then, Yan Yan showed him her phone. Apparently, she had shared his picture with one of her friends, and the girl was asking if he was single and even offered to become his girlfriend. But our protagonist didn't respond, because his mind was focused on something else. Even though he had the mind of a mature man, he couldn't help but realize that he was still in a younger and far more energetic body. Anyway, Shen Yu was planning to sing first, but she soon discovered that her chosen song was a male-female duet. When Li Qiang eagerly offered to sing with her, she became embarrassed and was about to decline. But that was when our protagonist stepped forward and suggested that they sing it together. Thanks to his plot armor, he easily handled the singing. Shen Yu was clearly surprised. She had never expected him to know how to sing so well. Nonetheless, the two of them performed the song together. By the end of it, the boys were extremely excited, and Li Qiang even jokingly suggested that they kiss. In response, our protagonist told them not to get such ridiculous ideas. Surprisingly enough, even the quiet and introverted Lu Lin could sing very well, leaving the entire group shocked. At the same time, our protagonist began to feel more curious about her. Meanwhile, Shen Yu couldn't stop staring at him. She finally understood why Su Qing was so interested in our protagonist. As for our protagonist's ex-wife, she clearly didn't like the fact that her former husband was attracting more and more girls. 3 hours later, the group had sung to their heart's content. Li Qiang suddenly reacted in shock when he noticed the time. Hearing this, our protagonist suggested that they call it a night. On the way out, Shen Yu complimented his singing, and our protagonist returned the compliment. When he offered to pay for the KTV session, Brother Hao dramatically clung to him and began calling him Godfather. Our protagonist quickly told him that he wasn't nearly as rich as the guy was imagining. After covering the bill, Su Qing suddenly brought up the subject of him writing novels again. Our protagonist casually replied that novels were for dogs, and that he planned to become extremely rich, open a company and build his own business empire. He then asked why she kept bringing up the topic when she had already agreed to just be friends. In response, Su Qing told him that he was being too pretentious, but our protagonist insisted that he was telling the truth. However, in Su Qing's mind, she believed she had already figured him out. Our protagonist still had the same charm he possessed in their previous life, the kind that could easily attract girls. Since they were both living a new life now, she decided that she would make him chase after her willingly. After all, in this world, only she could have him. Our protagonist reacted in utter shock and immediately asked what she thought she was doing when they were supposed to be just friends. In response, Su Qing simply chuckled softly at his reaction, before telling him that he should consider the kiss as encouragement for both of them to chase their dreams. Just then, the girls arrive at their dorm room. Inside, Yan Yan immediately asks Lu Lin what she thinks about Li Qiang. After all, the girl even gave him her number, so Yan Yan assumes she must like him. However, Lu Lin's response quickly makes it clear that she doesn't like him at all. She only gave him her number to avoid unnecessary trouble. Still, Yan Yan isn't done talking. Ignoring her response, Lu Lin heads to the bathroom to take a shower. Suddenly, Yan Yan appears in the bathroom as well, casually commenting about how nice it is that their new dorm room comes with a built-in bathroom. Lu Lin reacts in shock when she suddenly sees her there. Meanwhile, Yan Yan openly observes her figure and casually comments that her body isn't bad. Embarrassed and annoyed, Lu Lin immediately screams at her to get out. The moment she steps out from the shower, Yan Yan informs her that her phone has been ringing non-stop. When Lu Lin checks it, she sees that it's a message from Li Qiang. Yan Yan can easily tell that the boy likes her. She even reveals that Li Qiang was initially interested in Shen Yu, but later switched his attention to Lu Lin, basically proving that the guy isn't worth giving a chance. When Yan Yan brings up our protagonist, Lu Lin suddenly becomes curious and asks how he managed to make so much money when the school semester has only just started. Yan Yan teasingly asks if Lu Lin is also interested in him. Lu Lin shakes her head, saying she is only curious. Because of that, Yan Yan proudly explains that our protagonist made around 30,000 yuan just from selling SIM cards alone. Lu Lin reacts in shock after hearing that. But Yan Yan isn't finished yet. She adds that he is also the district's general agent, and estimates that he has probably made over 150,000 yuan already. Yan Yan admits that she doesn't understand how our protagonist's brain works, but she certainly enjoys the money he makes. Just then, Shen Yu walks into the room and asks what they are talking about. Yan Yan casually replies that they are discussing which guy would make a good boyfriend. To everyone's surprise, Shen Yu casually nominates our protagonist. At first, the girls think she's joking. But after seeing Shen Yu's flustered expression, Yan Yan suddenly realizes that Shen Yu actually likes our protagonist. Shen Yu immediately becomes embarrassed and tells Yan Yan to stop talking nonsense. Just then, Su Qing suddenly appears and demands to know what the girls are talking about. Startled, Shen Yu quickly responds that they were just chatting about random things. However, Su Qing doesn't seem convinced. Trying to avoid the awkward situation, Shen Yu excuses herself, but that's when Su Qing calmly tells her that she already heard everything. Hearing this, Shen Yu freezes before finally admitting that she does like our protagonist. Since she knows that Su Qing is also interested in him, she suggests that they compete fairly. In response, Su Qing coldly tells her not to dream. She confidently states that our protagonist would never choose Shen Yu as his girlfriend. Even so, Shen Yu remains determined to try, but Su Qing clearly has no interest in arguing with her. After all, she knows our protagonist well. There's no way he would fall for a girl, just because they shared a song together. Later that night, after the lights go out, Yan Yan complains about the awkward tension in the room and wonders if all of this happened because of our protagonist. Trying to get everyone to react, she suddenly claims that our protagonist even touched her chest earlier. But she quickly becomes annoyed when no one believes her and everyone simply ignores the comment. Meanwhile, after thinking about it for a long time, Shen Yu finally gathers the courage to send a message to our protagonist. Right after sending it, she becomes extremely anxious. She can't believe she actually messaged him first and hopes he won't find her annoying. To her surprise, our protagonist replies almost immediately. Even more surprising, he invites her out on a date. Shen Yu is left completely stunned, wondering if she misread the message. Soon, she begins wondering if this means that he actually likes her. And just like that, the date is officially set. On the other side, Lu Lin sends a message to Brother Hao, asking him to give her our protagonist's contact information. She claims that she has a proposal for him. The scene then shifts back to our protagonist. He has just finished writing another novel, more specifically, copying another book. The ones he has already written are currently ranking at the top. Suddenly, he notices a new friend request. When he checks it, he is slightly surprised to see that Lu Lin reached out first. He can't help but wonder if regressing somehow increased his charm, since girls seem to be approaching him constantly. Anyway, Lu Lin's message is very straightforward. She asks our protagonist to lend her money. In exchange, she offers to become his girlfriend. Seeing the message, our protagonist almost spits out his drink. He quickly realizes that the girl wants to borrow money and is using the idea of dating him as leverage. Truly, this baddie is both direct and dangerous. In the next scene, the military training resumes. Everyone is out on the field and during the training, everyone except our protagonist. Instead, he is comfortably enjoying some KFC while mentally calculating the profits he has made from selling SIM cards and writing novels. Just as he is formulating his next plan to make money, his thoughts are suddenly interrupted. Looking up, our protagonist reacts in shock and asks what Yan Yan is doing in the infirmary, even jokingly asking if she is stalking him. Yan Yan immediately asks why she would ever do such a thing. Anyway, she casually grabs one of the fries he brought and begins eating it. Then she tells our protagonist to hand over the rest of the food, unless he wants her to report him to the instructor for skipping military training. Our protagonist immediately finds himself in a difficult situation. In the end, he reluctantly hands everything over. Yan Yan then asks why he was staring at her earlier, wondering if the KFC was supposed to be hush money. When our protagonist doesn't respond, she quickly comes up with another idea. Leaning closer, she whispers that next time he should bring double the food, otherwise she might tell the other girls that he touched her. Naturally, our protagonist asks when exactly he did that. In response, Yan Yan casually asks whether anyone would believe him over her. She even points out that he seems to be trying to flirt with 3 of her friends at the same time. At this point, our protagonist thinks the girl is talking complete nonsense, since he considers all of them nothing more than friends. But Yan Yan clearly doesn't believe him in the slightest. She even jokes about whether his small frame could handle all of them. Our protagonist can't help but wonder where she keeps getting these ridiculous ideas from. Regardless, he calmly explains that he only lent money to Lu Lin and reminds her that Li Qiang is the one who is actually interested in her. Still, Yan Yan doesn't believe that he would casually lend money to someone for no reason. Hearing this, our protagonist jokingly asks if the word scumbag is written somewhere on his body. Speaking of Li Qiang, Yan Yan comments that the guy might be a complete fool in love and is probably just wasting his time chasing Lu Lin. Our protagonist agrees and decides he should probably try to persuade Li Qiang to give up. Since our protagonist seems capable of getting things done, Yan Yan adds another demand to her earlier one. She now wants chicken wings too. Hearing this, our protagonist asks how long she plans to keep blackmailing him, taking out some money. Yan Yan casually asks what he is talking about. Our protagonist immediately understands but still wonders why she is spending so much. Yan Yan simply tells him that it's none of his business, and reveals that she plans to treat the girls. She then begins talking about how important their friendship is. Hearing this, our protagonist silently thinks to himself that he has never seen this side of her before, and honestly, he finds it quite cute. Later that evening, Yan Yan returns to the dorm holding a bag of KFC. The rest of the girls immediately stare at her and demand to know how she managed to get fried chicken and burgers. Yan Yan quickly signals for them to keep their voices down so they don't get caught. When they learn that our protagonist was the one who brought it for her, Su Qing immediately asks about their relationship. Hearing this, Yan Yan casually explains that he only agreed to help because of a certain girl in their dorm room. Su Qing instantly begins to think that the girl Yan Yan is referring to must be her. But before she can ask more questions, Yan Yan urges everyone to start eating. Unfortunately for them, another girl nearby overhears their conversation, and the smell of the food doesn't help either. Feeling it's unfair, the girl immediately goes to report them to the instructor. Meanwhile, back at the boys' dorm, our protagonist's friends naturally ask how he managed to sneak food inside and whether he really bought it because of Yan Yan. Knowing that Brother Hao is still interested in her, our protagonist explains that he is simply being used and that there is actually nothing between them. Suddenly, one of the boys bursts in with terrible news. Yan Yan and the girls are in trouble. Someone reported them, and the instructor is about to punish them. Hearing this, our protagonist immediately heads out to see what is happening. Meanwhile, the military instructor is furiously demanding to know who brought the food inside and how it even got there. Yan Yan steps forward and takes responsibility, claiming that she was the one who brought the food. Hearing this, the instructor turns to Su Qing, as if expecting her to say something. She clearly has something on her mind, but she remains silent. Just then, our protagonist suddenly arrives. He immediately reports to the instructor that he was the one responsible for bringing the food. Now the instructor becomes slightly confused. When he asks for a reason, our protagonist calmly explains that he did it for a girl he likes. The 4 girls are completely stunned by his words. So when the instructor asks which girl he is talking about, our protagonist slowly shifts his gaze toward the group. Su Qing's hopes rise instantly as she believes she must be the one he is referring to. But to everyone's surprise, he chooses someone else. Yan Yan is shocked when our protagonist chooses her. The instructor turns to her and asks if this is true. To everyone's surprise, Yan Yan decides to play along. She casually asks what the problem is, saying that it's only natural for her man to bring her food. Meanwhile, Brother Hao is nearly in tears, deeply regretting not stepping forward sooner. Regardless, the instructor dismisses the crowd and tells our protagonist and Yan Yan to follow him to the dean's office to receive their punishment. Our protagonist agrees, thinking that if anyone needs to be taught a lesson, it's definitely Yan Yan. Seeing this situation unfold, Shen Yu becomes worried, while Su Qing decides to call the administration office to see if she can help. Later, at the dean's office, the instructor reports the entire situation. The dean nods in agreement and initially insists that both students must be punished. Unfortunately, his earlier actions make it obvious that he was just watching adult content on his computer. Brushing off the embarrassment, he thanks the instructor for his hard work and suggests that he will handle the matter personally. After seeing the instructor off, the dean begins by confirming whether the 2 of them are actually in a relationship. When they confirm it, he remarks that our protagonist and Yan Yan actually make a great couple. Yan Yan happily thanks him for the compliment. Anyway, the dean informs them that bringing outside food during military training is against the rules. However, since this is their first offense, he will let them off without any serious punishment. As for their penalty, each of them must write a self-reflection letter of 2,000 words. While our protagonist thanks him for the light punishment, Yan Yan immediately panics and asks how she is supposed to survive that. She struggles to even write an 800-word essay. Turning to our protagonist, she begs him to help his woman. Our protagonist immediately asks what nonsense she is talking about. Since she was the one who got caught, she should be the one writing the essay. In fact, he says she should write 4,000 words. Because of this, the dean eventually kicks them both out of the office and suggests that they continue their argument outside. Before they leave, the dean reminds them that if the instructor asks about their punishment, they should simply say that they received a major demerit. Yan Yan can't help but notice that the dean is actually a pretty kind person. Outside, Yan Yan admits that she never expected our protagonist to step up and take the blame for her. He calmly replies that he already thought it through. Situations like this usually carry light punishments, so it really wasn't a big deal. Suddenly, Yan Yan calls out to him. Out of nowhere, she suggests that they turn their fake relationship into a real one. Before our protagonist can even respond, she suddenly kisses him. Just like that, his first kiss is stolen, leaving him momentarily stunned. He is about to say something when Yan Yan stops him and says he doesn't need to walk her back to her dorm. Before leaving, she blows him a kiss and tells him to consider it payment for standing up for her. The next scene takes place the following day. Our protagonist is at work when Yan Yan suddenly calls him. She complains about why he didn't come to the infirmary and wonders if he is deliberately avoiding her. She even reminds him that they kissed, so he should take responsibility. Our protagonist is about to respond when she suddenly changes the topic and asks him to bring food on his way back. Yan Yan ends the call with a smile. To her surprise, Su Qing was nearby and claims that she saw everything. Before Yan Yan can come up with an excuse, Su Qing begins wondering what kind of charm our protagonist has that makes all the girls chase after him. She then tells Yan Yan that our protagonist would never like her. In response, Yan Yan proudly puffs out her chest and claims that she knows exactly what type of girl our protagonist likes. She then asks why she isn't allowed to like him, and finally reveals that he is actually her type. At that moment, Shen Yu appears and looks confused when Yan Yan suddenly declares that she is officially competing with both her and Su Qing to win our protagonist. Just then, Yan Yan receives a message from our protagonist saying that he is currently outside. She immediately tells them that she is heading down to get the food he brought for her. Because of this, Su Qing can't help but wonder if our protagonist actually likes Yan Yan. When Yan Yan approaches him, our protagonist hands her the food. She teasingly asks if he dressed up specially for her. Realizing that the other girls are watching from a distance, Yan Yan suddenly clings to him and tries to act all lovey-dovey. Unfortunately for her, our protagonist gently pushes her away and explains that he is actually waiting for someone. Hearing this, Yan Yan asks whether the person is a man or a woman. To her shock, our protagonist casually tells her that the person has already arrived. Apparently, he is going out on a date with Lu Lin. We shift to a day before our protagonist hands Lu Lin the money she asked for as a loan. He makes it clear that she must pay it back. Lu Lin thanks him after confirming the amount and then says that, in exchange, she will become his girlfriend. She is about to say more when our protagonist interrupts, telling her he doesn't care. He explains that he isn't going to rent her as a girlfriend and that she should simply pay him back on time. The scene skips to the present day, where the school is hosting a gala to celebrate the end of military training. Our protagonist is approached by Brother Hao, who asks him that now the training is over, which girl he likes. As usual, our protagonist tells the guy to stop spouting nonsense. Suddenly, the rest of their dorm mates appear. Before Brother Hao can even understand what's happening, he is dragged elsewhere. Soon after, Su Qing steps onto the stage as the MC and introduces the next performance. The girls performing a dance happen to be Lu Lin and Yan Yan. By the end of the performance, the crowd, mostly the male students, goes wild. Backstage, the girls are urged by the guys to give out their numbers. While Lu Lin remains silent, Yan Yan tells them that unfortunately she already has a boyfriend. Turning to her friend, she asks why she didn't accept any of the gifts, but Lu Lin simply says that this bunch of guys is troublesome. Anyway, Lu Lin says she is heading back, explaining that her outfit might make her catch a cold. Yan Yan turns around and notices our protagonist chatting with Shen Yu. She immediately becomes annoyed that our protagonist didn't come to meet her after her performance. Interrupting them, she asks with a smile what they are happily chatting about. When Shen Yu tells her it was nothing, Yan Yan gives her a skeptical look. Apparently something happened between our protagonist and Shen Yu. A week ago, Shen Yu personally baked cookies for him. Our protagonist accepted them and showed his appreciation. She then seized the opportunity to request that he join her in performing a song at the gala. Of course, our protagonist agreed without much thought. Now back in the present, Yan Yan grabs a seat and sits close to our protagonist as she asks for his thoughts about her performance. Our protagonist explains that her dance was great. However, his eyes, as usual, are looking elsewhere. Yan Yan notices this and bursts into laughter. Feeling a bit awkward, our protagonist suggests that Shen Yu go prepare first. Reading the room, she leaves. Now that she is out of the picture, Yan Yan excitedly asks for his honest opinion. He replies by saying he liked it. In response, Yan Yan reveals that she prepared something special just for him. Zhou Yuan wonders what that could be. Yan Yan then shares her phone with him. Our protagonist wonders aloud why she is showing the same dance performance again. However, she explains that there are some moves she purposely didn't use on stage and reserved only for him. Yan Yan secretly observes our protagonist, hoping he will say something good about her body. Unfortunately for her, our protagonist is more focused on Lu Lin in the video, so when she asks if he wants to see those moves from the video privately, our protagonist instead asks if he can watch the video again. Yan Yan begins to feel slightly annoyed that the guy isn't paying attention to her. Meanwhile, Brother Hao and Li Qiang appear. Brother Hao complains, while Li Qiang assures him that they made it in time for Yan Yan's dance. Just then, their conversation is interrupted when they overhear a group of students talking about a girl. Because of this, Brother Hao speaks up, saying that the girl they are talking about is from the economics department. Naturally, they ask how he knows her. In response, he proudly states that the girl is his girlfriend. Hearing this, one of the guys points toward his supposed girlfriend, who is happily chatting with another guy. Brother Hao is stunned. Yan Yan has never even smiled at him before. Yet she is happily chatting with our protagonist. Poor guy realizes far too late that the world is truly unfair. While they are discussing, Su Qing suddenly shows up and mentions that our protagonist will be performing a song with Shen Yu. Yan Yan is naturally surprised and asks why he didn't tell her. Our protagonist responds by saying that she never asked. She pouts, saying he should have taken the initiative to tell her. When our protagonist asks why he should do that, Yan Yan becomes clingy and says that she is his girlfriend. Watching them act like a couple right in front of her makes Su Qing furious, but she forces herself to calm down. After all, her plan to secure our protagonist is to become successful and make him chase her instead. Anyway, our protagonist is surprised to learn that he has become a regular topic of discussion in the girls' dorm, where Yan Yan constantly complains about Shen Yu. Hearing this, Su Qing corrects Yan Yan, saying that recently she hasn't shown any interest in our protagonist. Ironic, considering she used to be obsessed with him. Regardless, Yan Yan doesn't see this as a bad thing because it means one less competitor. Feeling embarrassed, our protagonist excuses himself, saying it's almost time for his performance. Su Qing studies his reaction, wondering if he is forcing himself to stay calm. Once our protagonist leaves, Su Qing decides to have a serious conversation with Yan Yan. Yan Yan still thinks Su Qing is interested in our protagonist, but Su Qing reveals that this is no longer the case. Yan Yan remains skeptical. She thinks her friend is planning to move like Shen Yu, quietly and undetectably, making her move behind the scenes. In response, Su Qing seriously states that if Yan Yan genuinely likes our protagonist, she should make things clear with Brother Hao to save everyone from misunderstanding and heartbreak later. Hearing this, Yan Yan falls silent for a moment before admitting that she does like our protagonist. However, she is afraid of getting rejected if she confesses, and she worries that people will start mocking her afterward. Because of this, Su Qing suddenly becomes something of a life coach. She advises her friend not to care about what others think. If she truly likes our protagonist, it shouldn't matter in the first place, otherwise she will regret it later. Hearing this, Yan Yan says she never imagined Su Qing was actually good at giving advice. As a result, she tries to hug her playfully. Interrupting their banter, the MC announces the next performance, a couple's song. When both girls hear this, they are left in utter shock and disbelief. Even more shocking, Shen Yu appears dressed up for the performance, and the two of them look like a perfect couple straight out of a drama. Of course, the crowd feels the same way. Because of this, the students begin shouting for them to kiss. They literally want to skip 12 episodes of a K-drama and jump straight to the climax. Watching this, Yan Yan's anger peaks. She becomes fired up and decides not to hold back anymore. Meanwhile, one guy asks Brother Hao if the girl on stage with our protagonist is Yan Yan's friend. He confirms it while inwardly feeling grateful, thinking that our protagonist might actually be interested in Shen Yu after all. However, before that thought can settle, the student informs him that his girlfriend has just entered the stage. Seeing this, poor brother Hao is left completely stunned. He quickly comes up with an excuse, though even he doesn't sound convinced. At this point, even Li Qiang feels sorry for him. Anyway, Yan Yan walks onto the stage and offers them flowers, saying both of them did well. Turning to our protagonist, she asks if he could sing for her privately. Our protagonist is reluctant to do so. Seeing his expression, Yan Yan suddenly asks if he enjoyed all the attention from the girls in their dorm. Our protagonist asks what she is talking about this time, adding that he only performed with Shen Yu because she gave him cookies. In response, Yan Yan reveals that she doesn't care anymore, and before our protagonist can even react, she suddenly grabs him and kisses him on stage in front of everyone, leaving him momentarily stunned. As a result, this causes a huge stir among the crowd. They immediately think this is some kind of love triangle and that Yan Yan is declaring her dominance. Now the same guy from before asks Brother Hao if he is certain Yan Yan is really his girlfriend, or perhaps they are in some kind of open relationship to make things more exciting. At this point, Brother Hao completely collapses. Li Qiang is there, as usual, to comfort him. Honestly, at this rate, the poor guy might actually go on a villain arc. Anyway, our protagonist expresses that he didn't like the stunt Yan Yan just pulled. However, she responds that since he didn't reject her, it only means he accepted it. Meanwhile, poor Shen Yu is left frozen on the stage. She never imagined things would turn out like this. She even begins imagining rumors spreading around campus, calling her a shameless girl for singing a love song with someone else's boyfriend. Excited, the students ask Yan Yan if she and our protagonist are really dating. In response, she asks if it isn't obvious. She even has the nerve to suggest a group picture. While doing so, she takes the opportunity to explain their relationship to the crowd of students, assuring them that she allowed our protagonist to perform because she and Shen Yu are friends. Meanwhile, our protagonist thinks to himself that if he speaks up now, Yan Yan will be completely humiliated. But then again, what about Shen Yu? He can only wonder what all of this is really about. Reading the room, Shen Yu makes an excuse and prepares to leave. Yan Yan notices the tense expression on her face. She stops her and reminds her about their bet. Since she won, our protagonist is officially hers. Narrowing her gaze, Shen Yu thinks to herself that Yan Yan is shameless for kissing our protagonist in public when they haven't even established a real relationship yet. She turns away with a huff and doesn't respond. Yan Yan watches her leave before thinking to herself that it would be foolish to remain passive. After all, someone as outstanding as our protagonist isn't the kind of person you come across every day. After the gala ends, Yan Yan and our protagonist walk together. She suddenly asks him a question. Between her and the other girl, who does he like? Our protagonist honestly tells her that it's Shen Yu. Yan Yan immediately calls him a liar and asks that if he really liked Shen Yu, why did he practically admit that she was his girlfriend in front of everyone? Our protagonist explains that she honestly left him with no choice. He then asks if she really thinks he's the kind of guy who would publicly embarrass a girl in front of so many people. Yan Yan interprets this as him having some feelings for her. Later, they walk past a group of students who are listening to music. At the same time, our protagonist runs into Chen Wen, who jokingly comments about his girlfriend. Since Yan Yan doesn't know her, our protagonist introduces Chen Wen as a senior and the vice president of the student council. Shifting the topic, Chen Wen suddenly assumes that our protagonist must know how to play the guitar since he can sing. When asked if he would play something for Yan Yan, our protagonist casually confirms and agrees, leaving her completely stunned. Taking the guitar, he begins playing while staring directly at her. As he moves through the crowd, one girl comments that Yan Yan must be lucky to have him as her boyfriend. Even Chen Wen notices that Yan Yan is blushing. Yan Yan herself realizes that our protagonist hasn't taken his eyes off her the entire time. Shortly after the performance ends, they are suddenly approached by a blonde senior. She introduces herself as Dao Tian, the head of the art department. Since our protagonist can sing and Yan Yan can dance, she offers them a proposal to join the department. Our protagonist politely thanks her and says he will think about it. However, he seems to remember Tao Tian from his previous life and silently decides it might be better to keep some distance. Meanwhile, Yan Yan wonders how our protagonist always manages to remain calm and handle every situation so smoothly. Nonetheless, the blonde senior hands him her card so he can contact her whenever he becomes interested. Seeing this, Yan Yan asks if the senior's intentions aren't a bit too obvious. Our protagonist simply asks why she feels that way. This only makes Yan Yan pout in annoyance. On the way back, Yan Yan asks our protagonist if she was the first girl to ever hear him play the guitar. He confirms it, adding that she is the first one in this timeline. Suddenly, Yan Yan stops walking and tells him that she wants the two of them to be together. Seeing his puzzled expression, she insists that she is serious. Hearing this, our protagonist leans closer and calmly asks what the benefits of being her boyfriend would be. Embarrassed, she begins listing them. She says they could go on dates, hang out together, and have fun, stuttering the entire time. Lowering her voice, she shyly adds something about being intimate. This makes our protagonist ask if that means all the perks disappear if he doesn't become her boyfriend. Of course, she quickly says no. Leaning even closer, he asks if she's really certain. He reminds her that during the military training, she kept using him again and again. He then warns her that a man's patience also has limits. Confused, Yan Yan asks what exactly he is talking about. Instead of answering, our protagonist suddenly takes control of the situation and kisses her. For a moment, Yan Yan's mind goes completely blank. Ironically, Yan Yan is the same girl that Brother Hao chased for 4 years without success, yet she was taken down so easily. Seeing her stunned reaction, our protagonist begins teasing her. Annoyed, Yan Yan suddenly bites him. Our protagonist reacts in disbelief, while she calmly says that this is his punishment. Because of this, Yan Yan asks if this means they are officially together now. Our protagonist wonders why she is still asking such a question after everything that just happened. Feeling relieved, Yan Yan decides to post a photo to announce that they are officially together. Since our protagonist doesn't want his face to appear, they take a picture holding hands instead. At that moment, our protagonist feels a little bad for Brother Hao, because he is beginning to like Yan Yan. The scene then shifts to the girls' dormitory. Su Qing notices Shen Yu's dejected expression and reminds her that she already warned her. She explains that Yan Yan has a competitive personality. She only values things that are difficult to obtain. For example, Brother Hao has always been loyal to her, yet she still chose our protagonist instead. As for our protagonist, Su Qing explains that he tends to like girls who actively chase after him. That's why she previously advised Shen Yu to give up. After all, she believes she understands our protagonist better than anyone. Simply put, he prefers proactive girls. Hearing this, Shen Yu asks about Su Qing herself. Wasn't she also chasing after our protagonist? Su Qing shakes her head and says she is different. Unlike the others, she believes that she and our protagonist are fated to be together. Hearing this, Shen Yu asks if she didn't feel strange when Yan Yan kissed our protagonist on stage earlier. Su Qing responds that she didn't feel angry. She admits that she knows exactly why she can't feel angry. Yet she still can't completely ignore the feeling of seeing our protagonist kiss another girl in public. Still, she says Shen Yu wouldn't understand. She compares it to a wife discovering her husband with another woman. If something like that couldn't affect her, then why would a simple kiss matter? Her words almost make it sound like she is already calling our protagonist an unfaithful husband. Shen Yu can't help but ask if her friend isn't going too far. After all, they just entered university, yet she is already talking about marriage. In response, Su Qing simply dismisses the comment and suggests that Shen Yu focus more on herself and her studies. Shen Yu says she understands, but deep down she still thinks the whole situation is unfair. Later that same night, while scrolling through her social media feed, Shen Yu suddenly sees the photo of our protagonist and Yan Yan announcing their relationship. Looking at the picture, she quietly thinks to herself that the world really sucks. The following day, our protagonist heads to a car dealership to buy his first car. Apparently, he used knowledge from his future research on the stock market to make several successful investments, earning himself several million in profit. His eyes are set on a convertible BMW, a car that is perfect for an enjoyable joyride. Watching from the side, a senior staff member tells her junior colleague to handle our protagonist. She uses this moment to lecture her, saying that some customers are not worth paying too much attention to. Despite this, the young employee approaches our protagonist with a bright smile. She politely introduces herself and offers to help him with anything he might not understand. In response, our protagonist calmly asks for the price of the car. This immediately surprises her, and she can tell from his tone that he might actually be a serious buyer. So when he asks for a test drive, she quickly agrees and begins making the necessary arrangements. Moments after the test drive ends, our protagonist pays for the car in full, leaving her completely stunned. The young lady's superior watches everything in shock while the employee goes to prepare the purchase contract. Our protagonist carefully reviews the contract while she explains the dealership's services, including insurance and maintenance packages. After listening, he nods and decides to rely on her services. And just like that, he secures his very first ride. Meanwhile, the superior can only stand there filled with regret for misjudging him earlier. With the car secured, it's now time for him to get a house, preferably the perfect one. The scene skips several hours later that same day. Our protagonist is now hanging out with Yan Yan in his new car. She excitedly takes a photo and posts it online. He doesn't stop her because it saves him the trouble of having to explain things later. Anyways, Yan Yan is shocked when she hears that our protagonist plans to take her to the house he just bought. She immediately asks if staying out all night wouldn't be considered bad behavior and insists that she should return to her dorm instead. However, before leaving, she suddenly kisses him, saying that the least she could do is reward him after he has given her so much. Since Yan Yan initiated the kiss, our protagonist decides not to hold back. The atmosphere quickly becomes heated, and Yan Yan soon begins to feel overwhelmed, asking him to stop. However, our protagonist's moves are so smooth that she finds herself struggling to resist. Just as things are about to escalate further, Yan Yan suddenly stops him. Feeling slightly embarrassed, she quickly makes an excuse. Because of this, our protagonist agrees to take her back to her dorm. But inwardly, he feels frustrated. She got him all fired up and then left him alone to deal with it. Later that same night, our protagonist is relaxing in his new house while thinking about other ways he could make money. Suddenly, he receives a message from Lu Lin. As expected, our protagonist thinks to himself that this girl only texts him when she needs money. Nevertheless, he replies, and she tells him that she is coming over. Not long after, she appears right at his doorstep. Our protagonist can hardly believe that she came all the way here at this hour just to borrow money. Naturally, assuming that's the reason, he invites her inside so they can talk. Unexpectedly, Lu Lin has a completely different agenda. She tells our protagonist that if he gives her 4,000 yuan, she will give him what he wants. She even adds that she isn't like Yan Yan, so he doesn't have to worry. Our protagonist can't believe what he is hearing. Still, he agrees. He can also tell that she is inexperienced, so he calmly tells her to leave everything to him. And just like that, after 19 chapters, our protagonist finally reaches this moment. Of course, just like in Dragon Ball Z, where fights drag on for multiple episodes, their scene stretches as well. The next scene takes us to the following day. Lu Lin finds herself thinking about everything that happened the previous day. Our protagonist really put her through quite the workout. Just then, our protagonist interrupts her thoughts and asks if she plans on leaving soon. She replies that she probably will, since she doesn't really have anything else to do. Because of this, he suggests that she stay a little longer and keep him company. Lu Lin quickly reminds him that she isn't his girlfriend. At the same time, she adds that he can always call her if he needs anything. Our protagonist immediately sees through her little game. Because of this, he tells Lu Lin that he has a problem, and that only she can help solve it. In the end, the two of them go several more rounds that morning. The scene then jumps to 2 weeks later. Inside the art department, a group of students are practicing for an upcoming event. Yan Yan is currently absent, which clearly annoys Tao Tian. She thinks to herself that if it weren't for Chen Wen, she never would have agreed to let Yan Yan join the department in the first place. Just then, Yan Yan finally arrives with our protagonist while apologizing. Apparently, she went to pick him up earlier. Our protagonist casually greets Tao Tian. However, Tao Tian still warns Yan Yan that missing rehearsals could result in punishment. Yan Yan responds with a playful gesture, clearly not taking it too seriously. Our protagonist then explains that Yan Yan was absent because of him. He also mentions that he came with an offer. He is currently looking for students who are interested in part-time work. Because of this, Tao Tian takes his contact information and adds him to their group chat. While doing so, she checks our protagonist's recent social media posts. After seeing them, she starts wondering if he might actually be some rich kid. At the same time, she feels slightly disappointed when she realizes that he already has a girlfriend. After rehearsal ends, Yan Yan suddenly asks about his house. Our protagonist looks confused since she was the one who refused to go there last time. Yan Yan simply says that the last time was different, and this time she plans to bring the girls along as well. The next scene takes us to the apartment complex. When Su Qing sees where the apartment is located, she is immediately shocked. She remembers that in the future, the Lanyuan apartment units would appreciate to around 6 million each. Back then, She didn't have enough money to buy one. She also remembers that in her previous life, our protagonist once promised that in their next life he would buy one for her. Because of this, she naturally assumes that he bought this apartment for her. When they enter the unit, the girls are completely amazed. Yan Yan, as usual, immediately starts taking photos of the gym and the balcony. The same girl who didn't want to come earlier suddenly starts calling our protagonist husband and excitedly asks if she can move in. Trying to change the topic, our protagonist reveals that he prepared gifts for Yan Yan and the other girls since they were coming over. Seeing this, Shen Yu tells Yan Yan that she hopes she doesn't mind them benefiting from her success. Yan Yan doesn't mind in the slightest. Meanwhile, Su Qing quietly observes the gifts and realizes that although they are just cosmetics, they are from luxury brands. Yan Yan even offers to give some cosmetics to Lu Lin. However, Lu Lin refuses, saying that she doesn't wear makeup in the first place. She also tells everyone that she has to leave because she has something important to attend to. The rest of the girls take this as their cue to leave as well. Yan Yan asks why they're leaving so soon, considering they haven't even finished touring the apartment yet. Shen Yu doesn't answer directly. Instead, she thanks our protagonist for the gift and leaves with a polite response. Meanwhile, Su Qing watches Yan Yan and our protagonist acting all lovey-dovey. Something about it feels strange to her. In their previous life, our protagonist was never like this. Because of this, she concludes that he might simply be trying to make up for the regrets he had before. Still, ever since they arrived, he hasn't looked at her even once. Because of this, she finally calls him out. When she suggests having a private conversation, Yan Yan quickly interrupts and suggests that they talk some other time. This leaves Su Qing confused since she only wanted to confirm something. Even so, our protagonist tells her not to misunderstand the situation. After all, Su Qing can't possibly expect to have a private conversation with him when he already has a girlfriend. Hearing this, she calmly replies that he doesn't need to worry, sooner or later she will figure things out. After everyone leaves, Yan Yan stays behind in the living room, happily scrolling through her phone. She is clearly deciding which photos she wants to post. That's when she suddenly notices our protagonist sitting beside her. When she asks why he's staring at her, he simply says that they haven't seen each other for 2 weeks. Naturally, his intentions become pretty clear. Before she can react, he pins her down on the sofa. This should have been the perfect moment for our protagonist to finally make his move. However, Yan Yan suddenly stops him, leaving him stunned. Even more shocking, she tells him that she isn't mentally prepared yet and suggests that they wait 3 months to get what he wants. Our protagonist asks if she is really serious. She nods. At this rate, by the time those 3 months pass, he might already be done sleeping with all her friends, so she will definitely need time to mentally prepare herself for that. The next scene takes us to the art department, a week before the art gala. Students are rehearsing when Dao Tian approaches. They exchange a bit of small talk about the performance before she asks to speak with him in private. Brother Hao and his friend feel slightly envious, wondering how our protagonist has become so popular. Alone, Dao Tian tells our protagonist that she's looking for a decent part-time job, and he informs her about one with good pay. When he teasingly suggests that she become a model, she agrees after all, she has the figure for it. Speaking of part-time jobs, she invites our protagonist to their department dinner, adding that some of her friends want to personally thank him for helping them secure jobs. Just then, Yan Yan suddenly appears and becomes clingy. Our protagonist wonders when she even arrived. Seeing this as her cue to leave, Dao Tian walks away, reminding our protagonist not to be late and giving the two of them some space. The next scene shifts to the dinner party. Lu Lin is approached by a guy who asks her to sing with him, but she politely tries to turn him down. Meanwhile, Yan Yan keeps egging her on. Lu Lin then glances toward our protagonist, who is silently observing the conversation. She begins to wonder, could it be that he's jealous? However, our protagonist is more focused on the guy. He asks Dao Tian about him, and she replies that the guy is a sophomore. Teasingly, she asks if he's worried the guy might steal Yan Yan. Our protagonist jokes that if that happens, he'll just turn to her instead. This makes her remind him that she's his senior, so he shouldn't tease her like that, but deep down she finds him interesting. After all, age is just a number. Back to Lu Lin, the guy remains persistent, while she continues insisting that she can't sing. That's when our protagonist steps in. Grabbing the mic, he starts singing. As expected, his voice captivates the girls. Even more shocking is what happens next. Lu Lin, who claimed she couldn't sing, suddenly takes the mic from the sophomore and begins singing as well. Just as the girls start seeing the two of them as a matching pair, Yanyan grows furious, especially when one girl mistakes our protagonist for Lu Lin's boyfriend. The rest of the girls are shocked to learn that our protagonist is actually Yanyan's boyfriend, and the same handsome guy who helped them get their part-time jobs. Because of this, Yanyan begins to second-guess her decision to bring Lu Lin along. After the song ends, our protagonist casually chats with Dao Tian. Suddenly, the girls who were watching earlier rush over, asking to add him on WeChat. One even asks for permission to take photos with his car. Seeing this, Yanyan immediately steps forward like a protective girlfriend. Noticing her reaction, Dao Tian tells the girls that it's bad manners to ask for a guy's contact when his girlfriend is around. They should do it secretly instead. The girls immediately understand, but Yanyan loudly insists that it's not allowed. She begins to wonder if Dao Tian is just teasing her on purpose. Amid the banter, our protagonist spots Lu Lin heading out. As she turns, she notices him approaching. Lu Lin demands to know what he's doing here, pointing out that he left his girlfriend behind. Our protagonist casually replies that he was just heading to the restroom. Hearing that, she feels a slight sense of disappointment. Our protagonist immediately notices her reaction. Without warning, he suddenly grabs her, and before her brain can even process what's happening, he kisses her. Perhaps this is the price for keeping a guy on probation for 3 months. Afterward, Lu Lin warns him that Yanyan might become suspicious. Our protagonist simply replies that when she's ready to get a boyfriend, she should let him know. She is left momentarily stunned by his words. The girl admits that if our protagonist had more money, she would consider becoming his woman, and might even be more loyal than Yanyan. Because of this, our protagonist asks whether she is only interested in his money. She shakes her head, clearly captivated by his strength and the way he handles her. Sensing the moment turning in his favor, our protagonist presses forward, just as things begin to flow smoothly. Someone suddenly calls out to him. Recognizing the voice, both of them panic. It's Yanyan. When she steps in, she is slightly stunned to see our protagonist there. She quickly asks what he's doing. Without missing a beat, our protagonist explains that he was just chatting and offered to help Lu Lin light her cigarette. After revealing why she was looking for him, our protagonist suggests they go find Dao Tian together. However, Yanyan insists he go ahead, saying she wants to discuss something with Lu Lin. As he leaves, our protagonist feels a slight unease, wondering if she suspects anything. Once he's gone, Yanyan immediately questions Lu Lin, demanding to know why she sang a duet with her boyfriend. Lu Lin calmly retorts, reminding her that she was the one who picked the song and even encouraged her to sing with the sophomore. In response, Yanyan claims she only did it to live in the atmosphere. Lu Lin, clearly unimpressed, tells her that instead of trying to manipulate her, she might as well go ask Su Qing about her relationship with our protagonist. Confused, Yanyan tries to stop her, but Lu Lin has no intention of continuing the conversation and walks away. Left alone, Yanyan begins to wonder if there really is something between our protagonist and Su Qing, or if she's simply too prone to jealousy. She admits to herself that she feels uncomfortable whenever she sees him with other girls. As if on cue, she spots our protagonist chatting with Dao Tian and her friend. Apparently, he had just helped them secure good part-time jobs, and the girls are expressing their gratitude. At that moment, Yanyan approaches from behind and softly suggests they leave. Our protagonist is briefly puzzled but agrees. He bids farewell, while Dao Tian waves with a smile, though inwardly, she thinks Yanyan is foolish. After all, clingy girlfriends are often the first to be dumped. Later, back at the dorm before parting ways, Yanyan suddenly asks our protagonist if he will love her forever. His answer is exactly what she wants to hear. Relieved, she smiles, while our protagonist playfully tells her to stop overthinking. Not far away, Su Qing watches the two acting lovey-dovey, her expression turning cold with anger. Some bystanders even begin to wonder why it suddenly feels like the atmosphere has turned stormy. Inside, Yanyan asks about Lu Lin's whereabouts, noting that she left the party early. Shen Yu replies that Lu Lin probably got bored. Since she doesn't have classes, she's likely grinding matches at a cafe. However, Yanyan suddenly turns her attention to Su Qing, accusing her of trying to stir trouble between her and Lu Lin. Already irritated from watching Yanyan with our protagonist, Su Qing grows even more annoyed at the accusation. Still, Yanyan insists she knows exactly what she's talking about. Trying to warn her, Su Qing begins to speak, but Shen Yu suddenly remembers she left something outside. With Yan Yan refusing to back down, Su Qing finally snaps. She reveals that she has been with our protagonist for so long that even his current house is decorated to her taste. Yan Yan scoffs, calling it impossible, even if they were together before. He is her boyfriend now, and Su Qing has no proof. Smirking, Su Qing asks if she really needs evidence. She points out how skilled our protagonist is, and casually asks Yan Yan whether she was the one who taught him those techniques. Yan Yan refuses to listen, but Su Qing continues, claiming she was the one who taught him how to please a woman and that she has personally experienced it. That's the final straw. Yan Yan explodes in anger. Shen Yu, who has been watching the entire time, quickly steps in and restrains her, insisting they talk things out. Meanwhile, Su Qing keeps talking, even asking if Yan Yan wants detailed explanations of what our protagonist is like in private. Enraged, Yan Yan calls her shameless, while Su Qing fires back, calling her nothing more than a second-hand girlfriend. Though Shen Yu manages to stabilize the situation, Yan Yan is still furious. She argues that no girl would remain calm when someone brags about being intimate with her boyfriend right in front of her. Su Qing insists that wasn't her intention, but Shen Yu cuts in, saying that even if they dated before, it's all in the past now. However, Su Qing quietly remarks that none of them would understand. After all, how could she possibly explain that in their previous life? Our protagonist was her husband. Not to mention, he once swore they would be together forever. At this point, she seems completely delusional. The scene shifts again. Our protagonist is surprised to see Lu Lin. Naturally, he asks what she's doing here. Perhaps she came for money, or perhaps for something more, if that's the case. Our protagonist casually suggests they do something special tonight. The next scene skips to the following day. Our protagonist drops Lu Lin off near the school park while giving her extra money. However, the girl insists that what he already gave her is enough and even considers taking a part-time job. Our protagonist simply tells her to take the money, adding that part-time jobs don't suit her. Lu Lin remarks that our protagonist seems to be acting like some main character in a novel. Our protagonist imagines the scene and teases her, noting he can be more proactive. Smiling, Lu Lin takes only 200 yuan, insisting he give her the rest the following month. Because of this, our protagonist compliments her, noting she looks extremely beautiful when she smiles. The next scene takes us to our protagonist's classroom. Inside, two girls begin chatting, wondering why Su Qing was waiting at the door. One concludes she's waiting for her boyfriend, leading the other to question who it could be. She explains to her friend that Su Qing is interested in our protagonist. Not only did she chase him, but she even overheard them fighting the previous day over him. Brother Hao immediately picks up on the conversation. Concerned, he asks if Yan Yan really got into a fight and demands to know if she is fine. The two girls just stare at him, wondering why he is asking and whether he is somehow involved with Yan Yan. Outside, our protagonist finally arrives. Stunned, he asks what Su Qing is doing at his class. In response, Su Qing suggests they find a place to talk privately. The scene skips to the training ground. Seeing her hesitate, our protagonist insists she speak, reminding her he has a class to attend. Hearing this, she gets straight to the point, asking if our protagonist is really her first love. Our protagonist thinks for a moment and decides it's finally time to reveal the truth. His gaze becomes complex, as he believes that if he continues hiding it, she will only pester him in the future. The moment he calls her his ex-wife, Su Qing freezes instantly. Finally, she expresses relief, noting that the heavens have given both of them a chance to start over. Unfortunately for her, our protagonist doesn't want to remarry or get involved with her again, especially after what she put him through. As if reading his thoughts, she says she has changed much like him. She also tried using future knowledge in fashion and investments, but she isn't getting any results. After hearing the details, our protagonist asks if she left her brain behind after the regression. He points out that she knows nothing about crypto, yet went straight into investments. She tries to retort, but our protagonist isn't done. He tells her she likely got rejected in fashion because she didn't design anything trendy. In addition, trends change, meaning her designs now might become gold mines in the future. Our protagonist mocks her, noting she used to be smart, yet even with such a heavenly opportunity, she can still be so foolish. Of course, this makes her a bit furious, since he could have said it in a much better way. Regardless, our protagonist insists she forget about everything. When his startup eventually succeeds, he promises to send her abroad to study fashion. Su Qing is momentarily speechless when our protagonist acknowledges her talent and her regrets from their previous life, and how that disappointment affected her attitude. He then reminds her that they are divorced and shouldn't waste time. Instead, each of them should focus on their own goals and ambitions. Becoming emotional, she hugs him and promises to do her best. The scene shifts to Brother Hao and Yan Yan. Apparently, the girl is desperate to reach our protagonist, yet gets no response. Brother Hao attempts to reassure her, but the moment her phone rings, everything changes. She calls and asks about the whereabouts of our protagonist. The moment he mentions being with Su Qing, Yan Yan explains her current situation, so our protagonist decides to pick her up so they can talk. Seeing her cheerful expression, Brother Hao wonders if this was really necessary. She's acting differently, and he wonders what our protagonist has that makes her behave this way toward him. As a result, the girl snaps at him. The poor guy just doesn't want to mind his business. Now he tries to backtrack and offers to explain himself, but Yan Yan is already done with him, yet he still follows her. Yan Yan tries to point out that whatever is happening is between her and our protagonist, and insists she doesn't need him to follow her. Our protagonist sees their interaction and suggests they grab something first. However, Yan Yan doesn't get the hint. She insists he explain his relationship with Su Qing, otherwise she won't talk to him. Our protagonist tells her there is nothing between them. Since she doesn't believe him, our protagonist asks what she wants him to say. Now she weaponizes her emotions. Seeing this, our protagonist insists she stop crying, saying whatever happened between him and Su Qing was a long time ago. That's when Brother Hao steps in, slapping his hand away. Our protagonist doesn't understand what's happening. Yan Yan is shocked when Brother Hao accuses our protagonist of trying to mess with her while going around with other girls. Our protagonist becomes upset. Since Brother Hao is constantly looking out for her, he suggests they make it official. A bit anxious, Yan Yan asks what our protagonist is saying. Our protagonist replies, suggesting that they should both reconsider their relationship. After saying that, our protagonist leaves. Yan Yan tries to stop him by calling out his name. However, Brother Hao stops her, insisting she should think, adding that our protagonist is just a scumbag who dumped her. Furious, she slaps his hand away, blaming Brother Hao for complicating things and making our protagonist misunderstand. Hearing this, Brother Hao tries to point out that even if our protagonist misunderstood, he shouldn't have reacted the way he did. Basically, he notes that our protagonist doesn't like her. However, Yan Yan, almost in tears, bluntly tells him that even if she breaks up with our protagonist, she still wouldn't date him. That one hits hard. Hearing this, Brother Hao tells her to stop crying. In response, Yan Yan begs him to stop pestering her, adding that she doesn't like him. Now that really hits. Poor Brother Hao is furious and feels foolish for even trying. Yan Yan then switches into a desperate girlfriend, frantically texting our protagonist to clear the misunderstanding. Lulin watches this and wonders if they're having a quarrel. Yan Yan nods, saying our protagonist likely got jealous after seeing her with Brother Hao. Turning to Lulin, she asks her to help send our protagonist a message since he isn't replying to her texts. But Lulin refuses, after all. She's basically messing around with him behind Yan Yan's back. Still, she offers some advice, suggesting Yan Yan meet our protagonist directly since texting isn't working. However, Yan Yan rejects the idea, thinking our protagonist should come to her first. Well, that's kind of manipulative, or should we just call it having standards? Changing topic, Yan Yan suggests they go shopping. Lulin responds with her usual rejection, saying she's heading to the internet cafe. And by internet cafe, she actually means our protagonist's house. After a quick match, they move on to the main event, and yeah, let's just say it's the kind of stuff that sends the kids away. The next scene takes us to the following morning. Our protagonist then checks on his investments. As expected, investing in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies has been profitable. Together with his other income streams, he's netting about 10 million. Just then his phone rings. Looking at it, he sees it's Manager Zhao. Manager Zhao informs him that he needs 6 hostesses for his exhibition. Our protagonist reassures him that he'll handle it. And Manager Zhao uses the opportunity to invite him to a meal, adding that his boss wants to thank him personally. The next scene takes us to the Convention and Exhibition Center. Dao Tian and her friends are already there, and they politely turn down a guy who asks for their contact. Just then, our protagonist arrives. Seeing him, the girls thank him for helping them secure a part-time gig with good pay. One of them realizes he's the junior Dao Tian never shuts up about, and even admits he's handsome. Soon, Dao Tian approaches our protagonist and asks him to help fix her eyelashes. Because of this, her friends tease her, pointing out that they're all present, yet she went straight to him. However, Dao Tian shuts them down, revealing that our protagonist already has a girlfriend. Just then, our protagonist's friend arrives with the rest of the guys in a minibus. Our protagonist is momentarily stunned. Lu Shuo actually brought the guys on time. Regardless, they all greet him in unison, following Lu Shuo's lead. Approaching his friend, our protagonist reminds him about keeping a low profile. However, Lu Shuo explains that their labor company has already grown, and the guys are simply expressing gratitude for his help. Meanwhile, one of Dao Tian's friends finds our protagonist really interesting, while Dao Tian admits she had no idea he was this amazing. Unbeknownst to them, our protagonist and his crew are being watched. The observers turn out to be Manager Zhao and his boss, who decides to reward our protagonist with a red envelope if things go well. Soon after, Manager Zhao approaches our protagonist, shakes his hand, and notes that he came early. Our protagonist replies that more people are on the way. Since the exhibition will start soon, Manager Zhao calls a staff member and asks them to take the girls to get dressed. Before leaving, our protagonist tells the girls to call him if they need anything. Meanwhile, Lu Shuo points out a problem. Their company isn't taking any commissions. Our protagonist understands his intention, but explains that there are many ways to make money, and one of them doesn't involve taking cuts from students. Lu Shuo agrees, and our protagonist instructs him to watch over the girls. Inside the exhibition center, Manager Zhao takes the opportunity to tell our protagonist about his boss's promised reward, while suggesting he try a tea sample with him. Our protagonist is genuinely impressed by the taste, so Manager Zhao leaves him with Dao Tian, mistakenly assuming she's his girlfriend. Looking at her, our protagonist asks if she's tired. She says she isn't, it's just that the clothes are a bit tight. Our protagonist jokes that it's not the clothes' fault, she's just monopolizing the milk department. After joking around, our protagonist goes to browse the tea samples and is shocked to find one costing over 1,000 yuan. Just then, Dao Tian walks toward him holding one worth over 2,000. Our protagonist jokingly accuses her of stealing. Unsurprisingly, she plays along, asking if he plans to punish her. Just then, a customer interrupts their conversation to inquire about the 2,000 yuan tea. Our protagonist watches as Dao Tian stumbles and stutters her words. The poor girl realizes she knows nothing and wishes someone would save her from embarrassment. Seeing this, our protagonist steps in, giving a detailed yet brief explanation about the tea. With that, the man thanks him for the explanation and decides to come back later. Watching this, Dao Tian's friend teases her, noting that our protagonist seems very capable. Meanwhile, Dao Tian thinks to herself that he just saved her from embarrassment. Nonetheless, our protagonist decides to leave, noting that he has refreshments prepared for them. Dao Tian's friend thanks him for being thoughtful. Seeing her friend teasing her once again about our protagonist, Dao Tian reminds her that he already has a girlfriend, to which her friend responds that a girlfriend isn't the same as being married. Dao Tian admits that when she puts it that way, it makes sense. Meanwhile, our protagonist helps a foreigner out while instructing Lu Shuo in Chinese to get refreshments for the girls. Unsurprisingly, our protagonist is fluent in English and begins explaining the variety of tea. Of course, the man becomes interested. Approaching a staff member, our protagonist asks for the price of the tea. She replies that it is 3,000 yuan. Communicating with the man in English, our protagonist relays what the lady just said. Just like that, the man offers to buy 10, making our protagonist wish he had raised the price. Still, he insists the lady prepare 10 boxes of tea in Chinese for his foreign friend. With that, the lady gives our protagonist something for his trouble, thinking he is her good luck charm. Later that afternoon, the girls feel exhausted. One of Dao Tian's friends thinks that if it weren't for our protagonist's help, she might not have lasted this long. When she mentions dating him, Dao Tian reminds her once again that he already has a girlfriend. Before her friend can respond, Lu Shuo enters, asking about the whereabouts of our protagonist while addressing Dao Tian as sister-in-law. Once he leaves, the girls give her an unsurprised look, while she claims it is all a misunderstanding. Their conversation is interrupted by our protagonist, who arrives with Manager Zhao. He brings their wages along with a small bonus from the manager. Dao Tian personally thanks him, but the man notes it is nothing, and hopes they can work more in the future. Just then, Manager Zhao reminds our protagonist of his boss's invitation and suggests he pick someone to accompany him. Excited, Dao Tian asks if she can really come along. Our protagonist agrees, intending to introduce her to more people. In the next scene, Dao Tian enters a diner with our protagonist. She immediately notices the grand setup. Vice President Wan Tao of the Zhejiang Chamber of Commerce notes our protagonist's arrival and suggests he take a seat. A lady, clearly interested, asks if our protagonist is the one the vice president previously mentioned. The vice president responds positively, noting that the exhibition's success was also partly due to President Gao. The president himself replies modestly. Seeing this, the vice president teases President Gao, suggesting he might take our protagonist for himself in the future. The man chuckles and suggests working with our protagonist more going forward. Amid the playful atmosphere, our protagonist reminds the vice president that he is still a student and still has areas he needs to improve. The vice president finds him very modest and expresses interest in working with him in the future. After some drinks and small talk, both the president and vice president meet Dao Tian and suggest she drink with them. The moment she accepts, our protagonist immediately steps in defensively. Both men and Dao Tian are left speechless when he apologizes, noting that his senior sister's alcohol tolerance is painfully low, and offers to drink in her stead. Seeing this, both men try to hide their irritation and reluctantly agree. Later outside, Dao Tian cluelessly confronts our protagonist. He insists she get into the cab before they talk. Once inside, Dao Tian tells him that her tolerance is actually good. Our protagonist responds by asking if that means she would drink with anyone who offers a toast. He asks if she doesn't understand their intentions, that men like them enjoy seeing a girl drunk, and who knows what might happen after that. Hearing this, Dao Tian insists she can handle herself, noting that our protagonist shouldn't treat her like a child since she is his senior. Our protagonist fires back, saying that back then, she acted exactly like a child. Switching the topic, Dao Tian offers to treat him out to express her gratitude, insisting he cannot refuse. As usual, our protagonist has his thoughts about her assets, but he agrees, suggesting they use the opportunity to discuss future part-time job opportunities. Because of this, Dao Tian asks if work is the only thing he ever thinks about, to which he asks if they should talk about something else. That is exactly her point. Later, while our protagonist and Dao Tian are ordering food from a stall, nearby, Yanyan walks with Lu Lin, wondering why our protagonist hasn't replied to her text. Lu Lin suggests he is likely working. She asks if she didn't pay attention to the group, but of course Yanyan has no idea. Just then, she overhears a familiar voice and realizes it belongs to Dao Tian. The moment she spots our protagonist with her, she is left in utter shock. Dao Tian is taken by surprise when she sees Yanyan with Lu Lin. She notes the coincidence while explaining that she came to treat our protagonist as a way of thanking him for the part-time job and for helping her meet new people. As expected, Yanyan's girlfriend defense system activates. She notices the way Dao Tian addresses our protagonist and begins to wonder about her relationship with her boyfriend. Nonetheless, Lu Lin inquires about the part-time job, asking how it went. Dao Tian replies that it went really well thanks to our protagonist. In addition, she reveals that he is very capable and fluent in English, even adding that he made sure she and the other girls were well taken care of. Because of this, Yanyan questions our protagonist, asking why she doesn't get the same treatment. Shocked, Dao Tian wonders if this means our protagonist is going through a rough patch with her. However, our protagonist recalls how picky she is, even after buying expensive cosmetics for her. Pouting, Yanyan replies that she doesn't want cosmetics, reminding him that he hasn't been in touch for 3 days. Our protagonist reminds her that he has been busy and asks why she didn't come to find him instead. She becomes furious, saying he is her boyfriend, and that she shouldn't have to be the one making all the effort. Our protagonist points out that she even changed their couple avatar, but she insists that isn't the case. Interrupting them, Lu Lin insists they eat, adding that she will cover the bill. Yanyan thinks to herself that our protagonist is becoming more outstanding and no longer needs girls to exploit loopholes. In other words, it is time to lock this bastard down. Turning to Dao Tian, Lu Lin insists she joins them. She agrees, though she wonders why she feels a strange sense of competition toward Lu Lin rather than Yanyan. Soon, the food arrives. They all sit, and Yanyan asks our protagonist if this counts as a reconciliation meal. At the same time, someone lightly kicks our protagonist under the table. He realizes it was Lu Lin and wonders whether it was intentional or just an accident. While Yanyan starts calling our protagonist husband and tries to feed him, Lu Lin begins to feel jealous. Clearly, she is up to something. Our protagonist notices this, but he remains calm, making Lu Lin think to herself that he is really something. At that moment, Dao Tian reaches for a napkin. As usual, our protagonist can't help but glance at her figure. Now he begins to wonder if the girls are trying to test his mental fortitude. Meanwhile, Dao Tian observes his interaction with Yanyan. In that instant, she realizes that his blush isn't because of Yanyan. Turning to Lu Lin, she immediately figures out what's going on. As a result, she grows even more interested in our protagonist. After the meal, our protagonist offers to walk them back to the dorm, but Lu Lin refuses and insists she doesn't want to disturb the two of them. Dao Tian also takes this as her cue to leave, reminding our protagonist to keep her in mind if any part-time job opportunities come up in the future. Later that day, our protagonist plays League of Legends using Yanyan's account. Poor brother Hao is shocked to find out that Yanyan is at our protagonist's place. At that moment, Yanyan comes out of the shower asking who he was talking about. Our protagonist says it was brother Hao, who wants to play duo and carry her by playing jungle. However, Yanyan is focused on something else. Apparently, she thinks it's finally time to give our protagonist what he wants. And just like that, our protagonist goes AFK, making his teammates furious as they swear they have a bot on their team. As a result, they lose the match. Now, brother Hao begins to question and regret his life choices. Meanwhile, our protagonist and Yanyan are tangled up in something. Strangely, our protagonist tells Yanyan that if they were ever to separate in the future, she must remember that he gave her everything he had. The following afternoon, our protagonist visits a delivery station inside. He walks alongside Lu Shuo while the workers greet him and thank him for helping them secure the part-time jobs. Apparently, our protagonist's previously mentioned startup was in logistics. In addition, he has signed leases for 9 new delivery stations. He gives Liu Shuo some money to lease trucks, and as usual, his friend assures him he is up to the task. Just then, Shen Yu stops him and asks if he came to pick up a package. She is momentarily stunned when Liu Shuo says that our protagonist is actually the boss, while he tells her to ignore his nonsense. Following her outside, our protagonist notices she is alone. She explains that the girls went to the auditorium for rehearsal and uses the opportunity to ask if he isn't going to prepare for his own performance. Our protagonist simply shrugs, indicating there is no need. Still, he has to go in order to see Yanyan. After waving her off, Liu Shuo appears with a suggestion. He asks if they can print their Brotherhood Association name on t-shirts. Our protagonist shakes his head but insists they make it more about the students and the university for easier recognition. Liu Shuo notes that it is a shame they are only leasing the 9 delivery stations. He suggests waiting until things get difficult for the owners so they can buy them at a good price. However, our protagonist shuts the idea down, simply because he doesn't have enough money. Because of this, Liu Shuo acknowledges our protagonist's good intentions in helping students, but asks how he plans to support himself since it doesn't seem like he is making any money. Seeing this, our protagonist reminds him once again that there are many ways to make money, while revealing his plan to dominate the entire logistics business. As usual, Liu Shuo is stunned and realizes our protagonist is far ahead of him. While they are talking, the scene shifts to the dressing room. Yanyan excitedly asks Lu Lin if she notices anything different about her. When she doesn't get the response she wants, she begins recounting what she went through previously, describing how painful her first time was. Hearing this, Lu Lin admits she wouldn't know, since she herself hasn't been with any man. A bit irritated, Su Qing asks Yanyan what is so special about her experience. To irritate her further, Yanyan not only insists that our protagonist really took care of her, but even helped dry her hair afterward. Su Qing fires back, saying it isn't special because our protagonist has done the same for her. Now both girls are on the verge of clashing, which makes Lu Lin furious. She snaps at them, asking if they haven't been with a man before. That remark genuinely catches Yanyan off guard, and she is about to ask something when Su Qing interrupts, insisting it is all Yanyan's fault since she started it. Still irritated, Lu Lin excuses herself and decides to leave. As she opens the door, she comes face to face with our protagonist. He notes that she looks really good in her outfit, but she clearly seems upset. Calling out to Yanyan, Lu Lin announces that our protagonist has arrived. Of course, Yanyan immediately becomes affectionate, praising his romantic gesture for bringing her flowers. When she suggests taking a photo, Lu Lin simply gives them a stare before refusing and insisting they find someone else. Now both of them are left speechless, wondering why she is suddenly in such a bad mood. Out on the balcony, Lu Lin's thoughts reveal her frustration. She is irritated by the way he treats both girls. She even considers quitting smoking because of him. However, it's not like she can complain, considering she isn't his girlfriend. Just then, our protagonist suddenly appears and takes her cigarette, reminding her that she promised to stop smoking. Lu Lin feels embarrassed and insists that her smoking has nothing to do with him, since she isn't his girlfriend. Seeing her reaction, our protagonist asks if she is jealous, but she immediately denies it. He notices how she keeps insisting that they are just in a situationship before silencing her with a kiss. He understands that she initially came for the money, but reminds her that both of them have to agree, even if she wants to stop. She clearly has a lot to say. After a moment of contemplation, she vents to him, demanding to know why he treats Yanyan and Suqing the way he does. At this point, our protagonist can clearly see that she is jealous. She finally admits it, but he reminds her that based on their relationship, she technically has no right to be jealous. Of course, she agrees. In the middle of their conversation, they overhear someone approaching. Of course, it just has to be the clingy girlfriend. She looks confused when she doesn't see Lu Lin, especially since their performance is about to start. Because of this, Lu Lin suddenly gets a dangerous idea, and our protagonist is clearly playing with fire. Anyways, Yanyan wonders where Lu Lin went and decides to call her. It seems our protagonist manages to dodge a bullet. Lu Lin becomes restless and asks our protagonist if he wants it. Before he can say anything, she kisses him. Meanwhile, Yanyan is in that situation where you can't reach the person when you need them the most. At the same time, our protagonist asks if Lu Lin isn't afraid of being discovered. She teasingly suggests he call Yanyan if he doesn't like it. When Yanyan finally finds her contact, our protagonist flips Lu Lin over, noting that she was the one who started it and he won't hold back. At the same time, Yanyan notices something and wonders why the wind suddenly feels strong. Before she can check it out, a girl interrupts her, reminding her that their performance is about to start. When Yanyan insists on finding Lu Lin, the girl grabs her and tells her to forget about it, saying Lu Lin isn't someone important. Unfortunately, Lu Lin overhears the remark. So when our protagonist calmly suggests heading back, she disagrees, bringing up what the girl said earlier. Seeing this, our protagonist tries to reassure her, saying the girl didn't mean it that way. Of course, Lu Lin understands. She notes that the girl is likely treating Yanyan well because she's our protagonist's girlfriend, basically trying to leave a good impression for his sake. She also admits she once liked him solely because of his money. Our protagonist stops her, asking if she doesn't realize that some things, like her feelings, can't be solved with money. Acting dismissive, he tells her to forget about it and suggests they head back. Pointing at him, she asks if he plans to go back looking like that. Indeed, the wind is really strong. Our protagonist can only blame himself, noting it was her earlier stunt that got him fired up. Hearing that, she decides to help him relax. The next scene takes us to the storage room. Feeling embarrassed, our protagonist asks if she really knows what she's doing. Seeing his reaction, she teases him, asking if Yanyan or Suqing has ever done this before. Our protagonist admits the truth. With that, she gets to work. Let's just say what happens next doesn't need much recap. In the middle of it, our protagonist's phone begins to ring. Seeing this, Lu Lin insists he doesn't answer, but he shakes his head. As a result, he makes a quick excuse, apologizes to Yanyan, and hangs up immediately. Thankfully, she doesn't suspect anything. Lu Lin notices he's still going strong and suggests they do something else. When our protagonist mentions getting caught, she asks if he's scared. As a result, they go for another quick round. Elsewhere, Dao Tian is furious that they can't find Lu Lin, considering they're about to start. When she suggests a substitute, Yanyan insists they wait a little longer. Just then, Lu Lin enters, apologizing for being late. Yanyan immediately demands an explanation, noting she wasn't answering her phone. Lu Lin replies that she didn't have her phone at the time and lost track of time. Anyways, Dao Tian interrupts them, insisting all the girls start preparing. At the same time, our protagonist casually walks in with drinks, noting he arrived at the right time. Seeing him, Yanyan asks why he hung up. He comes up with an excuse, telling her not to worry about it and to focus on the performance. The girls find his gesture very thoughtful and wish they had a boyfriend like him. Of course, with all the attention on Yanyan, she gets clingy, suggesting our protagonist find a good spot to watch her perform. Our protagonist then turns to Lu Lin. Let's just say our protagonist is playing a dangerous game, but hey, he's really good at it. Still, don't try this without plot armor. The next scene takes us to the stage performance. They seem to be doing some kind of K-pop routine, with Yanyan as the center on stage. Unsurprisingly, Brother Hao is there to support her. Seeing this, two people begin to tease him, asking if she is his supposed girlfriend. Brother Hao feels exhausted, wondering when the misunderstanding will finally be cleared up. That's when his friend reveals to everyone that our protagonist is actually Yanyan's boyfriend. Immediately, the atmosphere shifts. After the performance ends, they start preparing for the next act when the boy leaves to do something. At the same time, Yanyan suddenly appears, asking our protagonist for his opinion about her performance. Our protagonist kindly suggests she stop because of the murderous and envious gazes being directed at him. However, she completely ignores him. She definitely doesn't want him to survive. Just then, Brother Hao returns and is surprised to see Yanyan. When our protagonist asks about Li Qiang, poor Brother Hao mentions that he went to check on Lu Lin. Finally, our brother might be freeing himself from his obsession. We then move to the lottery segment. The winner is decided by whoever dials the number first, and the prize is a bicycle. Yanyan decides to participate using our protagonist's phone. Moments after the number is announced, the winner turns out to be our protagonist. His girlfriend is excited, unlike our protagonist, who suggests she go claim the prize. However, knowing Yanyan, there's no way she'll go alone. The MC of the show is surprised that the winner happens to be the very dance goddess. He offers to give them the prize, but only if they pass a test. The test involves questions, and the first one is how they met. Of course, everyone in the crowd shares the MC's curiosity and wants to know. Our protagonist is momentarily shocked when Yanyan begins answering, especially when she mentions a dark, windy night. However, she simply shrugs it off and instead reveals that they both come from the same hometown. The MC interprets this as them falling for each other back home. That's when our protagonist steps in, reminding the MC that they came for the prize, not personal questions. The MC insists there's no rush, adding that it's rare for someone to win something big. As usual, the crowd backs him up. Now, he suggests they do a stage performance. Our protagonist isn't interested in performing. As a result, the MC becomes more outrageous, suggesting that our protagonist and Yanyan kiss on stage. The crowd immediately starts urging them on. Su Qing is extremely furious with the senior. Because of this, Yanyan offers to dance instead. The MC agrees, along with the crowd. Meanwhile, Su Qing glares at him with a murderous aura. The guy feels it and naturally wonders why she's so upset. Our protagonist thinks to himself that if he had known things would turn out like this, he would never have come. Now he has no choice but to reluctantly put on a show. Just as he moves in for a kiss, Su Qing immediately stops them and thanks Yanyan for the performance. Both our protagonist and Yanyan are stunned when Su Qing brings up our protagonist's skill in playing the guitar, so much so that she even remembers him writing a song for her back in high school. This revelation instantly grabs the crowd's attention, making them even more curious about their history. Su Qing and Yanyan seem on the verge of clashing. Before things escalate, Shen Yu urges the senior to think of something to diffuse the tension and get both of them off the stage. With that, the MC steps in to mediate. While complimenting Yanyan's performance, he suggests they take their prize and leave. And just like that, we shift to the prize collection section. Yanyan is still annoyed that Su Qing claimed our protagonist wrote a song. In response, Su Qing tells her that our protagonist was so in love that he wrote many songs for her. Yanyan insists she be clear, so Su Qing mentions one of the songs. Turning to our protagonist, she hopes he hasn't forgotten, insisting he shouldn't lie. Our protagonist is speechless. It's true he did sing for her, but the song she mentioned hasn't even been released yet. Not to mention, if he were that skilled, he'd already be a top artist. His silence is enough confirmation for Yanyan. As a result, she leaves with a huff. Our protagonist tries to explain, saying she'll eventually believe him in the future. Meanwhile, Su Qing watches his reaction and finds it quite amusing. Later, our protagonist tries to coax Yanyan. She reluctantly agrees and decides to let him off the hook. Just then, Dao Tian appears and suggests taking a group photo. Our protagonist tries to come up with an excuse not to join, but Dao Tian insists that if he doesn't join, no one else will. Yanyan agrees with her. After the gala ends, both Lu Lin and Yanyan walk with our protagonist. When Yanyan mentions she's hungry, our protagonist suggests they head out. He also asks if the rest of the department will join. Of course, the girls agree after all. Who can turn down free food? Later, at the barbecue, our protagonist notices how enthusiastic Yan is and tells her to order whatever she wants. And just like that, she doesn't hold back, making the other girls envious. Meanwhile, our protagonist is on his phone. Seeing this, Yan asks who he's chatting with. Our protagonist tells her to check for herself. It turns out to be Lu Shuo. Apparently, our protagonist invited him and the guys to the barbecue. Moments later, Dao Tian starts with her usual antics. As expected, she never misses a chance to tease Yan. Unbeknownst to them, a group of shady guys shows up, commenting on their luck at running into a group of baddies. They immediately sit at the big table. When the waiter suggests they move, the red-haired guy instantly gets furious and chases him away. At the same time, our protagonist tells the girls he needs to go get Lu Shuo, noting that the guy took a wrong turn. Once our protagonist leaves, Yan and Dao Tian start chatting, only to be interrupted by a bald-headed man who gestures and invites them for a drink. Of course, Dao Tian shuts him down faster than my crush rejected me in high school. In response, the man becomes furious, shouting and swearing at them. Seeing his reaction, both girls panic and tell him not to come any closer. When Yan asks what he wants, he repeats the same thing. He just wants to drink with them. At that moment, our protagonist finally returns, casually commenting that the man's head is as shiny as ever. Feeling insulted, the man warns our protagonist to step back if he knows what's good for him. Seeing that our protagonist doesn't budge, he asks what he thinks he can even do about it. Our protagonist quickly realizes the man is only acting arrogant because he thinks he's alone. The group grows even more cocky, assuming our protagonist is scared. Unfortunately for them, Lu Shuo pulls up with his crew, ready to throw hands. Now the guys are truly cooked. Seeing Lu Shuo ready to beat someone down, our protagonist tells him to take it easy. His bro nods, insisting that our protagonist leave it to him and the brothers. One of Dao Tian's friends comments that their lineup looks straight out of a movie, while another says Yan is extremely lucky to have our protagonist as her boyfriend. Seeing this, the bald guy panics and tries to backtrack, saying he wasn't trying anything and only wanted to drink with the girls. Our protagonist just sits there like a mafia boss and gestures for the bald guy to come over. When he does, our protagonist asks about his age. The bald guy, sweating, reveals that he is 29 years old. Our protagonist can already tell the guy is a certified graduate from the unemployed department since he does nothing but harass girls. Once again, the guy repeats himself, saying he only wanted to drink, while the girls sigh loudly. Seeing this, our protagonist tells Lu Shuo to handle things from here. The bald guy feels relieved, thinking he's been spared. Meanwhile, our protagonist approaches the girls and suggests walking them back to their dorms. Lu Shuo then suggests that he, the bald guy, and his friend have a private conversation. And just like that, Lu Shuo and the boys teach the fools a lesson for trying their luck with our protagonist's girlfriend and Dao Tian. Later, while heading back to the dorm, the girls start talking about our protagonist. One of them even says that if she had met him earlier, she would have become his girlfriend. Meanwhile, our protagonist walks at the back with Dao Tian. He asks if she's still shaken, and she shakes her head, saying that the more she thinks about him, the less she understands him. Our protagonist is confused by her remark. Dao Tian explains that she's 2 years older than him, yet in his eyes she feels like a child who needs constant protection. Our protagonist accidentally blurts out that it's because he's actually older than her, before quickly correcting himself and saying he was just joking. Still, he advises her that next time someone like that bald guy shows up, she should ignore them and hide. After all, he won't always be around. Because of this, Dao Tian asks what she can do to make him always stay by her side. Our protagonist is momentarily stunned by that. Recovering, he tells her that would be difficult. She then admits she envies Yan, since our protagonist is her boyfriend. She asks if he prefers thinner girls, since she feels she lacks compared to Yan in that department. Hearing this, our protagonist tells her not to underestimate herself. She stops him and decides to ask a question. Our protagonist watches as she struggles to find the right words. Finally, she asks if he wasn't dating Yan, would he consider going out with her? Our protagonist appreciates her confidence and even admits that no man could resist her charm. Later that same night, our protagonist is chatting with Lu Lin, telling her to come over, when he suddenly receives a message from Dao Tian. Puzzled, he wonders why she's texting him at this hour. Apparently, she sent him a reward for protecting the girls. Our protagonist initially thinks there's no need for that, but curiosity gets the better of him. What he sees doesn't need much description. Even more shocking, the video is actually 32 minutes long. Because of this, our protagonist tries to calm himself down and mentally reminds himself not to develop any feelings for her. He then tells her that she's a girl and should be more reserved. In response, Dao Tian says he's the first guy she has ever sent such videos to. Their chat is interrupted when our protagonist hears a knock on the door. Of course, the person knocking turns out to be Lu Lin. Our protagonist jokes about her arrival, but she tells him to stop and says she can leave if she's not welcome. Anyway, Lu Lin admits she's curious about something. She asks if our protagonist is really a mafia boss. Our protagonist tells her to guess while leaning closer. And yeah, we all know what's about to happen. The storyline skips to late autumn. Everyone is busy with their own activities, while our protagonist enjoys a movie with Yan Yan and Lu Lin. Su Qing is more focused on herself, trying to secure opportunities by writing proposals. Meanwhile, Shen Yu is fully focused on her studies. As for Dao Tian, the poor girl can't help but wonder why our protagonist keeps ignoring her. The scene then switches to another one of our protagonist's delivery stations. Our protagonist thinks to himself that once he handles things at this station, the business should run smoothly. Elsewhere, a group of girls are discussing our protagonist. They envy Yan Yan, especially when she mentions that he treats her to expensive buffets. Su Qing overhears the entire conversation and thinks the girls are foolish. From her experience, she believes girls who rely solely on men don't go far in life. The next scene takes us to an airport where our protagonist arrives to pick up Lu Lin, while informing her that he bought some things for her. He also mentions that he wants to buy another car. As expected, the sales lady from before greets him and asks what kind of car he wants this time. Our protagonist says he wants to buy an SUV. The lady is surprised, noting that it hasn't been long since he bought his previous car. Our protagonist jokingly asks what she means and whether she's concerned about his finances. Regardless, the lady suggests preparing the paperwork. After picking up the car, our protagonist notices that Lu Lin has been silent. In response, she reminds him that she isn't his girlfriend, meaning she has nothing to say. Seeing this, our protagonist jokes that she can keep the SUV and he'll get another one. From his reaction, she can already tell what he's up to. Later, at our protagonist's second delivery station, our protagonist hands Lu Shuo some money, explaining that it's for expansion. They can now purchase more delivery stations instead of leasing them. Lu Shuo thinks this is perfect timing considering some owners are already reaching out to sell. Our protagonist tells him to handle it as usual, noting that Lu Shuo's only problem is that he has no problems. He's just that reliable. Because of this, our protagonist adds that since they are expanding, they need to hire professionals like accountants and managers. Lu Shuo gives his usual response. Just then, Lu Lin overhears some girls talking about our protagonist's company and how it has helped many students. One of them mentions that the benefits and pay are great and even considers applying if there's an opportunity. Because of this, Lu Lin teases our protagonist, calling him boss, so he fires back with his own teasing, asking if she wants a raise. Knowing what's coming, she quickly says no. The next scene takes us to the girls' dorm. Seeing our protagonist's gifts, Yan Yan asks Lu Lin if she truly doesn't have a boyfriend. Lu Lin doesn't respond. As a result, Yan Yan assumes that means she is dating someone. The girls next door begin to think she's hooking up with older men, but Yan Yan quickly shuts that idea down before it spreads. However, Lu Lin, as usual, doesn't care about what people think of her. Yan Yan demands to know why she would hide something like that, considering they are good friends. Midway through her sentence, something catches her eye. She is stunned by one of the dresses, noting that it looks very expensive. She wonders if Lu Lin's boyfriend is some rich second-generation young master, which is why she's being secretive. Hearing this, Lu Lin tells Yan Yan to take the dress if she likes it, saying she doesn't want it. Of course, Yan Yan thinks that's a great deal. Imagine what would happen if she ever finds out that Lu Lin has been secretly hooking up with our protagonist behind her back. Anyway, the next scene skips forward. Our protagonist is in the middle of sorting shelves when someone calls him. The person turns out to be Counselor Yu Changjin and his girlfriend, Jiang Xinye. Our protagonist realizes he came to pick up a package and offers to get it, while Yu Changjin is surprised to see him working part-time. To avoid people knowing he is actually the boss, our protagonist decides to pretend he's just an employee. Yu Changjin looks at the package before gesturing for our protagonist to talk privately. First, he thanks our protagonist for helping him before. but our protagonist says there's no need. Instead, he advises his counselor to be mindful of his spending since the cosmetics he bought for Jiang Xinyi were quite expensive. Yu Changjin then mentions that he heard from his girlfriend that the delivery station is a startup founded by a university student. Our protagonist confirms this, and even praises the founder as a genius, while conveniently leaving out the fact that he is standing right in front of him. Yu Changjin laughs and agrees before asking for a favor. Apparently, it's about his girlfriend. Although she comes from old money and already has a job secured after graduation, she doesn't want it. So he asks our protagonist if he can get her a position at the station, noting that her major is in finance. The man, clearly supportive, even offers to secretly add extra money to her salary. Our protagonist thinks he's a great guy, but wonders whether Jiang Xinyi would even want to work at the station in the first place. When Yu Changjin explains that she just wants a place where her skills can shine, and might even help him back at school, our protagonist agrees to do his best, and just like that, he waves them off. As the couple leaves, they talk about our protagonist, noting how hardworking he is. After they're gone, our protagonist reflects on the coincidence, since his startup actually needs an accountant. Shortly after the day's work, our protagonist receives a message from his girlfriend. She sends him a selfie of herself working out and suggests he come pick her up. Of course, our protagonist agrees, replying teasingly that he will take the bait. And just like that, she continues to stretch, focusing on maintaining her posture by lowering her waist. Later that evening, our protagonist meets with Dao Tian, who is accompanied by her friend. When our protagonist gives her the cosmetics he brought for her, she thanks him. Seeing this, her friend jumps in, jokingly asking our protagonist if he forgot about her. Our protagonist replies that he didn't, adding that he would definitely get something for her if she had mentioned it earlier. Appearing skeptical, she notes that his mention of her only proves he is focused on Dao Tian. When Dao Tian tries to explain, her friend cuts in again. Turning to her and still teasing, she asks if our protagonist is simply buying things for her, and what she uses to pay. Of course, Dao Tian immediately understands what she is hinting at and becomes flustered. Anyways, her friend decides to leave them to enjoy their date. Turning to our protagonist, Dao Tian notes that her friend was simply joking, so he tells her that he already knows. Since he is done delivering her cosmetics, our protagonist quickly tells her he is going to find Yanyan before she gets angry. It is obvious our protagonist is trying not to get attached, and Dao Tian wonders if she isn't that important, since he is leaving immediately without a proper conversation. Meanwhile, the scene switches to Yanyan. Our protagonist suddenly appears before her, startling her in the process. Our protagonist's hands start to move, making her blush. Unfortunately, he suddenly stops mid-action, suggesting they grab something to eat. Of course, this annoys Yanyan, especially since she was enjoying the moment just now. The scene switches to the school cafeteria. The couple has just entered when Li Qiang spots them. Brother Hao insists they mind their own business, but Li Qiang disagrees. Because of this, he calls both of them over. Let's just say he is that slow, pig-headed friend. The moment they arrive, the first thing he asks about is Lu Lin's whereabouts, and he becomes excited when he hears she is on her way. Sitting next to Brother Hao, our protagonist questions his expression, so he tells him the teacher appointed him to host the class theme, and he can't decide what to do. When our protagonist suggests watching a movie, his girlfriend immediately agrees. In addition, she suggests their classmates bring their +1s. Brother Hao replies politely, but thinks to himself that this might just be our protagonist and Yanyan's way of showing off. Just then, Li Chang becomes excited after spotting Lu Lin approaching their table. At the same time, Yanyan immediately informs her about the class event. She also uses this chance to suggest Lu Lin bring her boyfriend as a +1 and introduce him to everyone. Poor Li Qiang drops his chopsticks in shock that Lu Lin already has a boyfriend, but she ignores his reaction. Turning to Yanyan, she tells them her boyfriend can only come if it is convenient for him. Seeing this, our protagonist tries to remain calm, while Yanyan insists she try because she believes her boyfriend will understand. Meanwhile, poor Li Qiang is still reeling from the shock, questioning all his daily efforts to make Lu Lin his girlfriend. Brother Hao also takes note of the sudden shift in the atmosphere. At the same time, Lu Lin begins to make her move. Our protagonist doesn't like this, and wonders if she can't read the room, while she, on the other hand, wants to see his reaction right next to his girlfriend. As a result, our protagonist stops her. When she reacts, Yanyan immediately asks what happened. She replies, saying she bit her tongue. At the same time, Li Qiang comes to his senses, wondering when he dropped his chopsticks. Our brother decides to move forward and forget about her. When he notices our protagonist being entangled with Lu Lin, he is left shocked. At that moment, he wonders if he is seeing things, but in the next moment, he is relieved that it was only his imagination. Just then, Yanyan begins discussing Lu Lin's boyfriend, describing him as a second-generation young master, and says she envies the way he spoils her. A bit irritated, Brother Hao suggests our protagonist take notes and treat Yanyan the same. He literally tells him to spend all his parents' money on her. Li Qiang finally senses the sudden shift and excuses himself. Brother Hao also takes this as his cue, thinking to himself that their meal was ruined because of our protagonist. In the next scene, the following morning, Yanyan has breakfast with Lu Lin before revealing that she suspects our protagonist is cheating on her. This catches Lu Lin by surprise. Watching her, Yanyan admits something doesn't feel right about our protagonist. As for the reason, we rewind to the previous day. Apparently, after being intimate, she saw our protagonist texting someone and demanded an explanation. Our protagonist insists it was Dao Tian sending her payment. Even after seeing the evidence, Yanyan doesn't believe it. So our protagonist narrates how he bought some cosmetics for Dao Tian, and she is only paying him back. Yanyan comments on the women's attitude toward our protagonist and questions why he doesn't react to them, finding the whole situation suspicious. Lu Lin doesn't respond, because this is insecurity on full display. At the same time, she thinks to herself, relieved. Thankfully, they haven't been discovered. As usual, seeing her lack of response, Yanyan concludes there is something wrong with Dao Tian, but Lu Lin insists it's just a work relationship, and our protagonist and Dao Tian likely grew close because of it. Because of this, Yanyan begs her to make Dao Tian keep her distance from our protagonist. Seeing how overly possessive she is, Lu Lin seriously asks what she would do if she eventually discovered our protagonist cheating on her, because some things are best left undiscovered. Hearing this, Yanyan realizes she hasn't thought that far ahead. The poor girl has no idea what to do. She doesn't even entertain the idea of breaking up because she is afraid of being laughed at, so she decides to trust him. The next scene skips to a week later at the movie theater. Brother Hao waits for our protagonist and Li Qiang, wondering what's taking them so long. Just then, Li Qiang appears, running and apologizing for coming late. Brother Hao is speechless, amazed by how he looks. Li Qiang replies politely, but thinks to himself that if Lu Lin brings her boyfriend, he can't afford to look inferior. Just then, both of them hear people talking about our protagonist and his girlfriend. The two of them look like they rolled out of a fashion magazine, while Yanyan is really looking forward to meeting Lu Lin's boyfriend. Just then, Lu Lin appears, and Yanyan wastes no time asking about her boyfriend. Lu Lin replies, saying he couldn't make it. Because of this, Yanyan teases her, noting that her man doesn't seem to care much about her. Unbeknownst to her, that man is literally standing right next to her. Yanyan doesn't seem to like Lu Lin's comment just now. However, our protagonist stops them and insists they head inside to watch the movie. Inside, our protagonist sits with Yanyan while pointing out how much she is eating. Just like that, the two of them begin their playful banter, making Lu Lin upset. Midway into the movie, Yanyan begins to find it boring. Meanwhile, our protagonist seizes this chance to chat with Lu Lin via text. Of all times, our protagonist chooses to play with fire. So when he excuses himself to the restroom, he is stunned when Yanyan decides to go with him. Shockingly enough, she even suggests Lu Lin accompany them. It seems things are about to blow out of proportion. Inside the men's restroom, Lu Lin approaches our protagonist, so he immediately tells her to stop whatever she is thinking. However, she ignores him and kisses him instead. Our protagonist, a bit anxious, notes that she has guts, but Lu Lin insists they continue because they still have time. Unfortunately for them, someone happens to see both of them making out. And that person happens to be Li Qiang, who first assumes our protagonist is really something kissing Yanyan in the men's restroom. The moment he takes a second look, the poor guy's entire world collapses in real time. And he concludes he wasn't imagining things back in the cafeteria, but he still can't believe what's happening. Suddenly, Yanyan steps out of the women's restroom, asking why Li Qiang is spacing out like a fool. At the same time, both our protagonist and Lu Lin react in shock. Worse, they only realize Li Qiang has been standing there and caught everything in 4K.